Chapter 1077. When Su Fong saw their expressions, he knew what they were thinking. He was not worried that they would betray him at all. They could not do it with their strength and ability. Now that they wanted to hurt Su Fong, they had to ask the two puppet demonic soldiers if they agreed. In this ruined world, Su Fong did not consume any energy or get injured. He just sat cross-legged to recuperate. However, Mao Chong and the other experts were seizing the time to constantly recover and devour elixirs. Although the Yin-Yang Immortal Sky Pellet was a low-grade elixir, its vitality recovery power surpassed the high-grade and even the top-grade Immortal Essence Pellet. Seeing that the four still needed a long time to cultivate, Teng Ming immediately summoned Batong. He asked him to guard the Void Dust Cauldron Transformation World, while Su Fong entered the Cauldron Transformation World and began to cultivate the Yellow Spring Blood Sea. Mao Chong and the other experts were initially frightened by the sudden appearance of an incomparably powerful great demon. However, when they saw that Teng Ba obeyed Su Fong's orders, the four of them were at ease to cultivate. However, they also felt their hair stand on end as they felt that Teng Ba was going to devour them. Their eyes moved to the Void Dust Cauldron Transformation World. The four became shocked and greedy. They should have seen what kind of treasure it was. Cauldron Transformation World. Even an expert like Mao Chong needed such a rare and extraordinary treasure. Cauldron Transformation World. Xian Wang, Six Paths Pagoda, Starry Daylight Sword, and Flaming Cloud Spirit Gourd were constantly improving. The junior commanders and Big Goblin were also cultivating in different spaces. In the center was Su Fong's bloody state. It was more than 10 feet long and was constantly boiling, devouring elixirs and emitting fiery sparks. The bloody water boiled for a while, then turned into a vortex or a large number of blood threads. In short, it was changing in different forms. Especially when devouring middle-grade and high-grade immortal elixirs, the speed was too amazing. Even an alchemist could not bear such a large amount of elixirs. Fortunately, he had a lot of elixirs. In order to cultivate the Yellow Spring Blood Sea, he was ready to risk it all. Now, his Yellow Springs Blood Sea had improved a little. For example, when he released the Black Lotus blood threads could grow in almost every part of the blood in a short period of time. The blood threads were also very strong, comparable to a low-grade Dao artifact. If ordinary immortals were trapped in a Yellow Springs Blood Sea, the blood threads could cut them into pieces. When he used his blood transformation true body, the entire Yellow Springs Blood Sea was filled with devouring devil chi. Adding in Gui's special poison, the entire Yellow Springs Blood Sea was terrifying. It felt like a living hell. Currently, I can only use my true body's abilities in the Yellow Springs Blood Sea state. If I continue to cultivate like this, I will be able to grow muscles and bones. In the end, when I reach great mastery, I'll probably be able to control the Yellow Spring Blood Sea at will, giving the Blood Sea the same ability as a physical body. I'll be able to form hand seals, release abilities, and Dharma treasures. In the past, the Yellow Springs Heavenly Emperor was able to annex a major force with his spiritual ability. I, Su Fong, will definitely reach the same height as the Yellow Springs Heavenly Emperor in the future. No, I still have to surpass the Yellow Springs Heavenly Emperor and let the Yellow Springs Blood Sea reach a higher and farther world. With the continuous mastery of the Yellow Springs Blood Sea, Su Fong also saw further. He never doubted his ability. As long as he was given enough time, he could achieve everything. After half a year, Mao Chong and the four great experts stopped cultivating. When Su Fong left the Crucible Transformation Realm, he saw that the four of them had recovered to their 40s. Each of them looked completely different from before. Whether it was their appearance or strength, they had almost reached half the height of their peak. The changes compared to before were just too amazing. This is the Abyss space. There is no heaven and earth spiritual chi here. Being able to recover to this extent is not bad. The key is that there is not enough time. We can't stay here forever. We have to leave this place. Come with me now. After waving his hand, Su Fong took the lead and flew out of the ruins with the demon-faced Rakshasa. But when he brought the four of them to the outside world, he looked down at the surroundings. It was empty without any signs of life. In such a ruined world, how could they find the two devil path cultivators? Mao Chang bowed. Master, with our strength, we are not even half of our normal state. Our perception can only cover a dozen miles at most. This abyss space is very vast. If those two have some means, we probably won't be able to find them in 1,000 years. Yes, if we continue to search in the nothingness, we won't find anything. Instead, we will consume our true qi. Master, it's not that we don't listen to Master's orders. We have been trapped here for thousands of years. Every drop of our true qi is crucial. The other three great experts also looked helpless. Su Fong waved his hand. Who said it would be difficult to find them? As long as they are in this abyss space, they can't escape from this king's five-finger mountain. Just wait and see. They didn't know where Su Fong got his courage from. Su Fong was not afraid at all. He formed a seal in the air. Mao Chang and the three great experts could only stare blankly. They couldn't intervene at all. They didn't know what Su Fong was going to do. In fact, a Destiny Dao rune was exploding from the sea of primordial spirit in the divine aperture. Then, it spiraled up and turned into an invisible divine power. It was projected in all directions along with the great perfection perception ability. Su Fong just remained motionless. Because he had the ghost-faced Rakshasa with him, they didn't know what his expression was at this time. The four of them also waited patiently at the side. They had been shackled for 10,000 years, and they were still in a hurry. About half an hour later, they saw that the eyes behind Su Fong's mask suddenly burned with a faint flame of nothingness. He looked at the deep ruins to the left and then led the four of them into the air. Those two are resting in the ruins, using a formation to protect themselves. However, they can't escape my senses. Fortunately, although they have resources, they have long been seriously injured, and their recovery rate is not as good as yours. Killing them won't be difficult, but you have to be careful of the demonic weapons and demonic poisons in their hands. Of course, you don't have to be afraid of the demonic poisons. I'm a poison expert, and I cultivate demonic poisons. Mao Chang sighed in amazement. Master is so powerful. You can actually sense them so clearly. I estimate that they are at least 30 miles away. They can't escape from Master's palm. In addition, the two of them are hidden by a formation. It's even harder to sense them. The other experts also truly understood how terrifying Su Fong was. With such means, who could be his opponent in this abyss space? The four of you have recovered half of your strength. It's only a matter of time before you deal with them. It's best if you don't make me do it. Their speed gradually increased. After passing through a large amount of dust and void, they finally appeared in front of a ruined mountain. They slowed down. As Su Fong's eyes narrowed, Mao Chang immediately led the three experts and rushed forward with lightning speed. In less than 10 breaths, inside the ruined mountain, there was a rumbling sound and a big explosion. The shocking dust in the surroundings turned into waves of dust that exploded one after another, breaking the silence of the abyss space. Su Fong stepped on the waves of dust. Under the ghost-faced Rakshasa mask, his aura was evil, and the blood-red gem made him look like an evil god. About an hour later, the ruined mountain began to collapse. Suddenly, a bloody man flew out in a sorry state. For people were chasing after him. It was a bloody man. It was the strongest middle-aged man on Demonic Mountain. Chi. Just as the middle-aged devil Dao expert flew out of the collapsed mountain, he suddenly couldn't move forward anymore because a cultivator with a ghost-faced Rakshasa mask was floating in front of him. The devil Dao expert took a step back. He wanted to carry him away, but Mao Chang and the other three had already rushed over. One of them was even carrying the corpse of a devil Dao expert. Seeing that there was no way to escape, the expert vented his anger and killing intent on Su Fong. "It's you, you brat. Brat, you're so hateful." In the cultivation world, strength is everything. Don't you admit it? This is reality. I saw that you were an expert, so I didn't really want to kill you. Su Fong said slowly, standing with his hands behind his back. With a ghost-faced Rakshasa mask, He was mysterious all over. If you want to live, I'll naturally give you a way out. I'll give you a choice. I'm a higher up of Demonic Mountain. Although I'm not an elder, I'm a core disciple with an ordinary status. Do you think I'll become a traitor? If a disciple like me betrays, Demonic Mountain will chase me for the rest of my life because I know a lot of Demonic Mountain secrets. Since I'm going to die anyway, I'm naturally willing to die here. Hee, it seems that you think I'm not qualified to fight against Demonic Mountain and make you submit. Of course. Then let me ask you, are you following Blood Sovereign Sai or that Ba Demon Sovereign? You also know that we have two great elders on Demonic Mountain. Have you heard of which elder is controlling you? Or that great elder? You actually know that I'm Demonic Mountain's great elder? I'm not afraid to tell you that I'm a higher up under the great elder. That's easy to say. Su Fang asked a few questions, but he didn't know what his goal was. But at that moment, he stretched out his right arm and released a special black demonic aura. After this black demonic aura appeared, it didn't seem like much in the eyes of Mao Chong and the others, but it made the middle-aged demonic expert reveal a look of disbelief. No, that's impossible. How can you have Elder Ba Demon Sovereign's power? It turned out that this expert recognized the source of the demonic aura. I heard that Ba Demon Sovereign lost his left arm and was taken away along with his magic treasure while he was still alive. He lost his arm. Could it be you? That's impossible. How can you be a match for Ba Demon Sovereign with your little strength? He's an elder with boundless magic power and is 10 times stronger than me. There's nothing impossible in this world. Ba Demon Sovereign and I fought over the Heavenly Radiance Flame seed, but in the end, those righteous experts didn't get the seed, and neither did Ba Demon Sovereign. Instead, he lost his left arm. His left arm and the Heavenly Radiance Flame seed fell in my hands, and I refined his left arm. Believe me, you can't refute me, right? After Su Fang finished speaking, he suppressed the demonic aura. I have the ability to fight with Ba Demon Sovereign. In fact, in the Earth's core melting world, I even fought with your Grand Elder and many other experts. Let me tell you a secret. The demonic aura brat your Celestial Devil Mountain is looking for is me. It's you. It's you who took away all the treasures of the Devil Dao, right? At this moment, the middle-aged demonic expert was so shocked that he thought Su Fang was a freak. That's why, although Celestial Devil Mountain is powerful, I've taken the initiative time and time again. Now, I'll give you a chance to live. You can work for me, and I'll give you more resources and opportunities. If you hadn't met me, then no matter how high up you were, you wouldn't have been able to become an elder. But in the future, I'll become a peerless expert, and you can become my right-hand man. I'll give you time to think about it. Whether you live or die is up to you. If you choose to die, then your corpse will be refined by me like your companions. This is the law of the jungle. You should understand this law better than I do. Master is amazing. Mao Chong and the 3 experts couldn't help but be intimidated by Su Fang's domineering aura and were infected by his supreme aura. As for that demonic expert, his muscles, and even every strand of his hair, seemed to be holding back a fierce force. As a powerful expert, his twisted and ferocious expression was almost convulsing. Can you give me some time to think about it? The air froze for a few breaths. Under the gazes of everyone, the demonic expert seemed to compromise. However, Su Fang coldly snorted and said, "I'm afraid you don't have the time." Chapter 1078. The demonic cultivator just wanted to stall for time. Could it be that Su Fang couldn't figure out this person's intentions? Give me some time to think it over. I will definitely give you an answer. After all, I am a higher up of Demonic Mountain, the demonic cultivator said to Su Fang, still in a stalemate. Okay. Unexpectedly, Su Fang actually agreed. Okay, it's a deal. I will consider it carefully and give you an answer. The demonic cultivator nodded slightly and turned around to leave. Papa. At this moment, the corners of the demonic cultivator's mouth rose in a strange arc, as if he wanted to use some kind of scheme, not just to stall, but to achieve some kind of goal. Unexpectedly, in a split second, Su Fang raised his eyebrows, and a cold light suddenly shot out from the ghost-faced Rakshasa. two giant demonic figures suddenly jumped out from Su Fang's left and right, each holding a palm. Like an eagle soaring into the sky, they suddenly attacked the demonic cultivator. Two demonic soldiers appeared. When the demonic cultivator saw the incomparably sturdy demonic soldier palms pressing down, he couldn't figure out why Su Fang suddenly changed his attitude. Boom! With no other choice, the demonic cultivator could only release waves of demonic energy, which turned into a shocking black flame to defend against the demonic soldier's attack. However, the demonic soldier puppets were astonishingly fast and powerful. They weren't humans, but a kind of divine soldier, an ice-cold killing machine. The two heavy palms struck the demonic energy, and dazzling sparks and cracks instantly appeared on the demonic energy. Pooh! The demonic cultivator inside trembled up and down. His arms suddenly lost the support of divine power, and he spat out a mouthful of blood. The surrounding demonic energy also collapsed at this moment, and the two demonic soldier puppets' giant palm attacks also came to an abrupt end. A black magic treasure, the Xianguang, unexpectedly hovered above the demonic cultivator's head. The demonic cultivator's body shook so much that it almost shattered. He powerlessly looked at Su Fang. Who would have thought that I would die in a small place like you? Zhong Xinkaruoruo, Fangu Ping, Far, Twist. Su Fang, under the ghost face Rakshasa, was controlling the demonic blood plate. The two demonic soldier puppets returned to his left and right, loyally guarding him. Do you think I'm a 3-year-old child? If I give you time, you'll definitely play some tricks. I've met too many devils like you, people with evil intentions like you. Su Fang looked at Mao Chang's group of 4. I'll refine this expert's corpse and give you his physical strength, especially his life force. After absorbing his life force, you'll be able to recover quite a bit. Master, there's another corpse here. The 4 experts were so scared by Su Fang's tyrannical move that they didn't recover for a long time. They were glad that they didn't play any tricks in front of Su Fang. Another expert dragged out a devil's corpse. Su Fang took the corpse into his palm. As for the demonic path expert beneath the heavenly demon blood plate, he had already died. The heavenly demon blood plate sucked out a shocking golden core from his body, followed by a shocking demonic path true chi. Mao Chang and the other 3 couldn't control these demonic powers. They all belonged to Su Fang. After absorbing most of the true chi and golden core, he used the void dust cauldron's power and the illusory fire cloud to refine the demonic path expert's corpse. The corpse was divided into 4 parts. At first, it was flesh and blood, but soon, under the burning of the fire cloud and the assistance of the void dust cauldron's refining ability, the flesh and blood turned into 4 parts that released a dazzling blood-red light. Some dirt appeared in the surroundings, but it was quickly burned away by the fire cloud. Master's divine ability is unparalleled. The 4 experts were sincerely convinced. A cultivator as strong as them had been refined in such a short time. They couldn't do it. Even people like the elders couldn't do it. The 4 blood-red lights were obtained by the 4 experts. Then, Su Fang flashed to a nearby ruin. As for Mao Chang's group of 4, they also went to the surroundings to cultivate. This person's golden core and the remaining demonic chi is enough for my strength to reach the peak of the 3rd Tao realm. In the ruins, Su Fang didn't summon Tang Ba this time. After using his divine power, the 4 experts were already shocked. They wouldn't have any thoughts of harming Su Fang. Therefore, he summoned the void dust cauldron. Entering the cauldron transformation, he saw another demonic Tao expert's corpse. It was almost refined by the cauldron transformation. In front of the big goblin, demonic immortal, Tang Ba, and other experts, Su Fang turned the life force of this expert's corpse into a blood-red spring, which was greedily divided and devoured by dozens of experts. At this moment, he began to cast the yellow spring blood sea in the center. After a burst of crackling, the body turned into endless blood water. Then, a demonic chi golden core and a large amount of demonic chi seeped out from the demonic blood plate and descended into the surging blood water of the yellow spring blood sea below. At the same time, he also threw some elixirs into the yellow spring blood sea. The elixirs that Su Fong swallowed were all collected by himself. He only used a little of the ancient immortal elixirs obtained from the 100 Virtues ancient demon. The ancient elixirs were amazing and too precious. He had to swallow all the immortal elixirs on his body first before consuming the amazing ancient demonic elixirs. Over the years, Su Fong had obtained a lot of elixirs. It was enough to sustain tens of thousands of commanders, demonic immortals, and experts for a while. Sizzle. After the Yellow Spring Blood Sea swallowed the demonic Qi golden core, as well as a large amount of demonic Qi, it began to surge and burn with dazzling sparks. Su Fong thought of the spiritual items that he had obtained above the miasma cloud domain that had the ability to cleanse one's body, as well as the poisonous plants. He also took out one of them. This one was comparable to hundreds of superior-grade immortal essence pills. It was just right to strengthen one's body. Su Fong directly let the underworld blood sea swallow it. I almost forgot that this is the abyss space. I can't break through here. Before I break through, I'm at the third heavenly immortal realm. My energy is full. But once I break through to the fourth heavenly immortal realm, my true Qi will be very weak. How will I fight with experts? After thinking of this problem, Su Fong didn't think about taking advantage of this opportunity to break through to the third heavenly immortal realm. But he still continued to grow stronger, focusing on cultivating the Yellow Spring Blood Sea. After a while, when he used the Black Lotus True Body, he didn't expect that every drop of blood would quickly grow a Black Lotus True Body. Furthermore, he was cultivating it on a deeper level. He had the human face disappear from the drops of blood. Then he used a large amount of Black Lotus blood threads. Those Black Lotus blood threads began to weave together, forming a human body. The human body gradually transformed from the state of blood threads into a Su Fong after repeated intertwining and merging. After cultivating the Yellow Spring Blood Sea for so many years, I can finally control a portion of the blood. At the very least, I can use a portion of my true body's power. He tried again and again. The Black Lotus blood threads could grow from any part of his body, and within 10 breaths, they could transform into Su Fong's body. A year later, the demonic Qi golden core was completely devoured. Su Fong's true Qi had reached the peak, and he could break through to the fourth heavenly immortal realm at any time. But he could only suppress his true Qi and control his body so that he couldn't break through in the abyss space. Once he flew out of the void cauldron, he used the devilish poison in the depths of the ruins to create a shocking formation. Once Mao Chong and the others flew into the formation and saw the devilish poison, they were terrified. "Master, what business do you have with us?" The 4 experts bowed in front of Su Fong. "I heard you say that there are dozens of cultivators trapped in the abyss space. In any case, those people are just waiting to die. I want to recruit them. Here are dozens of yin-yang immortal sky pills. Find those people and persuade them to work for me. Then give them the pills." "Master, these pills are extremely precious. What if those people don't work for you after obtaining them?" Then it's very simple. I, Ghostface Rakshasa, am not a benevolent person. Those who truly care for me will naturally become better and better. But those who don't work for me are useless. I might as well kill them and refine them, so you can recover." Subordinate understands. "Don't worry, Master." Mao Chong received the immortal pills and left with the 3 experts. It was finally time to start his plan. When he met Mao Chong and the others, Su Fong thought that these cultivators trapped in the abyss space were almost all existences above the profound immortal realm. They were all talents and experts. Instead of letting them be trapped here to death, it was better to suppress them one by one, recruit them, and use them for his own purposes. Moreover, Su Fong was confident that by recruiting so many experts, he would be able to contend against those special disciples, or at least be able to protect himself. This was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. After settling down, he didn't think too much and continued to enter the crucible transformation realm. He asked Tingba to come out and guard the cave entrance. In the crucible transformation world, Su Fong cultivated the Yellow Spring Blood Sea while giving extraordinary pills to Bai Ling green feather king, undying tortoise, vermilion emperor, piercing sky monster venerable, woolen goblin, and other big goblin. He was concerned about woolen goblin's injuries. He didn't expect that this guy had recovered 70% to 80%. If this continued, he would recover soon. This time, he waited for less than a month. Suddenly, Mao Chong came back, and he was not alone. After Su Fong sensed it, he flew out of the crucible transformation realm without waiting for Tung Ba's report. He sat cross-legged at the front of the cave, surrounded by a large number of immortal stones. There was no natural spiritual energy in this abyss space, but with so many immortal stones gathered in the cave, it naturally formed an amazing spiritual energy space. Sure enough, Mao Chong took 8 ragged cultivators. As soon as they stepped into the cave, they were shocked. Entering the cave, there was a surge of spiritual energy. These 8 people forgot what they were going to do and directly absorbed the spiritual energy. Each of them was as thin as a match. It seemed that they had been shackled for a long time. To be able to be shackled until now, they must have extraordinary means, or at least a little bit more ruthless. Without this, they wouldn't be able to live until now, even if they had magic weapons, various magical powers and abilities. They would have been killed by other cultivators long ago. Mao Chong immediately snorted, shaking the 8 people back to reality. He introduced in public, "Everyone, this is our master, Ghostface Rakshasa. Greetings, Senior Rakshasa." The 8 people immediately bowed, not even daring to breathe. Su Fong sensed carefully. The weakest of the 8 people was at the mystic immortal realm, while the others were above the mystic immortal realm. Once they recovered, their strength would be on par with disciples like Mu Shuo, Yu Qingkue, and Yuan Yifeng, and special disciples. Seeing that Su Fong remained silent, the 8 people hurriedly bowed. "We are willing to be loyal to you forever. We will do our best for you." "Well said. I will naturally treat those who work for me well. If you want to become an expert under me, you must accept the shackles and seals. Are you willing?" "Yes, we will never regret it." The 8 people answered loudly. Only then did Su Fong start waving his arms to form seals. The power of the seals mainly came from Gue, as well as the power of the world of Yin and Yang. He also borrowed the divine power of the heavenly devil blood plate. In this way, the divine power of the 3 forces could definitely shackle the 8 experts. After a series of fusion, the divine apertures, golden cores, and young immortals of the 8 experts were bound by the shackles and seals. From now on, they could no longer escape from Su Fong's 5-finger mountain. Since they were already shackled, Su Fong didn't hold back. He took out Yin Yang immortal sky pills and gave each of them 10 pills. These people received the Yin Yang immortal sky pills as if they had received a treasure. Their eyes lit up and they refused to look away. They also began to swallow the pills in front of Su Fong. Chapter 1079. He had just recruited 8 experts, but after a while, another expert came with 3 cultivators. They had come for the Yin Yang immortal sky pill, but they had to submit to Su Fong in order to get it. Su Fong gave them the pill and recruited them as his subordinates. As for Mao Chong, he brought people to look for cultivators. The recruited experts were cultivating around the cave, greedily devouring immortal pills. In addition, there were a lot of immortal stones in the cave, so they were naturally happy to follow Su Fong. Following that, more than 10 people came to join him. They were all around a profound, immortal level, and none of them were heaven immortals. If they were heaven immortals, they would have been killed long ago. Su Fong secretly sized up the 20 experts around him. They were all recovering. If this continued, they could refine pills in the future and help Su Fong deal with strong enemies. He immediately let the 12 slaves who cultivated the Heartless Flying Sword give up on controlling the Heartless Flying Sword and enter the Snake Spirit Immortal Swallowing Cauldron to refine pills with the previous 14 slaves. "Master, in the past half a month, only a few cultivators came to join him." Suddenly, Mao Chong's miserable voice came from the depths of the ruins. Yes, hearing the sound wave's trajectory, he knew that Mao Chong had encountered something. He immediately led the 20 experts in the cave and waited for the other 3 to return. Then, He led everyone out of the cave and into the depths of the ruins. "Master, I can't find Mao Chang's aura." But after flying for more than 10 miles, the others did not find Mao Chang's aura in the huge ruins. "Strange, it seems I still have to use the Heaven's Secret Life shrinking technique." Finding Mao Chang in such a desolate and strange abyss was like finding a needle in a haystack. Without special methods, ordinary people would not be able to find his aura at all. In front of the stunned experts, Su Fong walked out. While the others did not know what he was going to do, he used the Heaven's Secret Life shrinking technique. A large amount of illusory Tao runes followed the power of the Great Circle and spread in all directions. The Tao runes of fate kept pouring into the chaotic space. The other experts still did not know what Su Fong was doing, so they could only wait quietly. About an hour later, suddenly, a faint buzzing sound came from the depths of the right front. At this moment, a rune in Su Fong's body also moved. "I can sense Mao Chang's aura." Su Fong smiled faintly, but then he was startled. "Why do I have a similar feeling in my body?" Thinking of this, he waved his hand and a rune appeared in his palm. The rune was in the shape of a butterfly. It was the rune talisman that Dai Yi had given him. Could it be? When Su Fong sensed Mao Chang's aura, it appeared at the same time. This made Su Fong instantly think of something. With a wave of his hand and a shout, he flew forward with more than 30 experts. After about 40 miles, Su Fong asked everyone to slow down. At this moment, there were towering ruins of mountains in front of them. His senses were not wrong. Mao Chang's aura was in these ruined mountains. He gradually released his great perfection ability. With this ability, he could cover a distance of 5 kilometers. He would definitely be able to see through the depths of this place. With his great perfection ability, he gradually saw through the first ruined mountain in front of him. There were some white bones and scattered magic treasures inside. When they entered the second ruined mountain, they only saw some magic treasures. However, after passing through the third ruined mountain, they saw a canyon. In the canyon, his great perfection ability actually saw a huge array. Focusing his ability, he saw an extremely familiar star aura above the array. It was the shocking vital energy from the constellation of 9 heavens. Around the array, he saw 3 cultivators. These 3 cultivators were all releasing the familiar aura of the constellation of 9 heavens. They were burning with star flames. Why would the experts from the constellation of 9 heavens set up an array here? Could it be that they're inside the array? At this moment, his deep eyes trembled. He never expected to meet the 3 peerless experts from the constellation of 9 heavens here. What do they set up the array for? When he thought of the movement from Dai Yi's rune talisman, it was not difficult for him to connect the dots. Mao Chang, there are more than 10 trapped cultivators. When he sensed the array, he saw that on the right side of the array, there were cultivators lying haphazardly on the ground. Mao Chang was among them. These cultivators' life force was severely depleted. One look, and he could tell that they were not disciples of Star Palace. It was even more impossible for them to be experts who had just been trapped here. They were all cultivators who had been shackled in this abyss for a long time. Fortunately, Mao Chang was still alive. He was only severely injured, and there were star seals formed by Star Palace's true chi on his body. The other cultivators were the same. Obviously, Mao Chang was suppressed by the experts from the constellation of 9 heavens. Near the dozen experts, there were 2 corpses of Star Palace experts. The Tao marks and aura of the corpses indicated that they were terrifying experts like Nangong Tuesday. They were much stronger than Mao Chang. Dai Yi, at this moment, his senses finally penetrated into the array. The moment his vision penetrated the array, Su Fong saw Star Palace's true chi turn into a shocking array's shackles, suppressing a young woman. This woman was Dai Yi. There were many wounds on Dai Yi's body, and they were all filled with Star Palace's aura. Below her left chest, there was a bloody, flying sword wound. When he saw Dai Yi, he felt that she was different from before. In the past, Dai Yi was mysterious and unfathomable. But now, Her strength was about the same as Mao Chong and Nangong Tu's. Her aura was constantly being devoured by the array. She was obviously no match for the array. Lady Yellow Moon's corpse. It was beside Dai Yi. Su Fong saw a headless body. She was wearing a yellow Taoist robe and had a head. When he saw the head, Su Fong's heart sank. It was Lady Yellow Moon, an expert by Dai Yi's side. Lady Yellow Moon had died too tragically. Her head had been chopped off and separated from her body. Her body was lying in the ruins, being devoured by the power of the ruins. She would eventually turn into bones and dust. His heart thumped, and he immediately looked at Dai Yi. Now he understood why Dai Yi had not responded when he notified her. From the looks of it, she had been pursued by experts from the Nine Heaven Star Palace all this while. Furthermore, from the traces of Empress Yellow Moon's corpse, she had probably fallen for a period of time. She had probably fallen into the abyss much earlier than Su Fong. Moreover, Dai Yi had not sensed that Su Fong was nearby. "Master, how is it?" An expert could not help but secretly ask. Su Fong slowly adjusted his breathing and looked at the experts. Fortunately, there were many of them, and everyone had recovered quite a bit. Thinking that the 3 experts from the constellation of 9 heavens would not be easy to deal with, he took out more than 20 shocking ancient high-grade elixirs. When the experts saw the ancient elixirs, they could not believe their eyes. "Take the elixirs, and we will have a fierce battle. Our enemies are 3 peerless experts from the constellation of 9 heavens. Sneak into the 3rd ruin mountain first and wait for my orders. Do not make any noise." After explaining to everyone, he first hid his aura, especially using the life shrinking technique to hide his aura in the void. In just a dozen breaths, he arrived at the side of the canyon. At such a close distance, he could easily see the depths of the canyon. He saw the Great Array, Mao Chong and the other trap cultivators, and Lady Yellow Moon's corpse. He wanted to see how powerful the 3 experts from the Star Palace were. How could this person be a higher-up of the Star Palace? I remember that this person was one of the higher-ups during the 10,000-year tournament. I did not expect him to be here to hunt down Dai Yi. Su Fong wanted to know how difficult it was to deal with the opponents. First, it was the elder with the strongest aura. When he saw the elder's appearance, his body tensed up, and he was very surprised. He had seen this person once during the 10,000-year tournament. He did not know if the elder had any impression of him, but he would never forget this elder. Looking at the other 2 experts from the constellation of 9 heavens, they were actually much stronger than Nangong Tuesday. They were almost comparable to the elder. Most disciples with higher strength would be able to reach the same level as the elders after cultivating for a period of time. In addition to the 2 experts from Star Palace who had died, it was imaginable that the 5 experts from Star Palace had chased after Dai Yi and Goddess Huang Yu. Both sides had suffered losses. This time, it wasn't an elder like Swaning Chuan. This senior elder was even stronger. Therefore, not only was Dai Yi seriously injured, she was also trapped in the Great Array. Luckily, the 3 from Star Palace were also seriously injured. If it was not 3 against 1, plus the Great Array, it would be impossible for one person to trap Dai Yi. Dai Yi is very strong. Even when facing the 3 of them, she could still hold on until now. No, normal methods cannot deal with the 3 of them. I have to think of a perfect plan. It would be best to create a Great Array to trap the 3 of them. With so many experts attacking at the same time, they will definitely die. Facing such a situation, Su Fong was very calm and he used his wisdom. Originally, he had come into contact with Dai Yi a few times. Almost every time, it was a matter of life and death. He had already regarded Dai Yi as a strong external aid. Compared to the Star Palace, Su Fong could not find a sense of belonging in the Star Palace. Therefore, he could kill the experts from the Star Palace. He did not care at all. Then, Su Fong suddenly unleashed his supreme primordial spirit and activated the butterfly-shaped rune. He inserted his magic power and primordial spirit. Senior, I am outside the Great Array that you are trapped in. I will help you deal with the 3 experts from the Star Palace. Puffed. In less than 2 breaths, Dai Yi, who was inside the Great Array, suddenly spat out a mouthful of blood. Then, a trembling voice came from the rune. Why are you so unlucky to be trapped in the abyss space? Su Fong smiled helplessly. I didn't expect it either. I just wanted to snatch a magic treasure from the experts from the demonic mountain. In the end, I was sucked into the abyss space by the power of nature. Let's not talk about this. Senior, I was thinking about this. What do you think? I have gathered more than 20 experts, and many of them are at the transcending mystic immortal realm. I will pick 18 of them and integrate them with the merciless flying sword as soon as possible. Then, I will set up the merciless sword spy formation outside and cooperate with you from the inside. I was also chased by a large number of experts from the Star Palace. I had no choice but to escape into the abyss space. These people are really determined to chase after me. All right, Lady Yellow Moon and King Black Python died in their hands. I can only rely on your ability now. Dai Yi agreed. Without hesitation, she went to the back of the mountain. Then, more than 20 experts rushed over to meet her. She picked 18 experts who were at the mystic immortal realm, and the rest hid on both sides of the mountain. Su Fong led the 18 people into the inner world of the void dust cauldron. In front of the 18 people, he floated in the void of the void dust cauldron formation. Looking at the shocked and stunned experts, he released a thunderous voice. The one trapped inside is a friend of mine. Our opponent is an elder from the Star Palace and 2 experts who are almost as strong as the elders. They are also seriously injured. Now, I will give you a few days to integrate this set of merciless sword spy. After speaking, he threw out a Xianguang. The merciless sword spy appeared in front of the experts. Chapter 1080. Sword Spy. This is an ancient sword spy. Master has 2 many treasures, an ancient cauldron transformation and an ancient sword spy. Follow Master to the end. Roar. Entering the cauldron transformation world, coupled with summoning the heartless sword spy at this time. One magic treasure after another, peerless treasures blinded the experts, who did not stare straight at it. Lead 17 experts to fuse with the heartless sword spy. I have been fusing with this set of sword spies for a long time. You only need to fuse the sword seal, hand seal, and array formation. I will support you from the side and try to activate the sword spy as much as possible. Su Fong cast a dignified gaze at a powerful old man. This set of sword spy has a total of 18 flying swords, each of which is a high-grade Dao artifact. When combined, its power is extraordinary and can kill an elder. Master, rest assured, we are all existences that have surpassed the profound immortal realm. We can already control high-grade Dao artifacts to an amazing degree. The expert bowed and accepted the order. He could not wait to lead the 17 people to sit in a circle. In the empty world of cauldron transformation, as Su Fong activated the sword spy, 18 flying swords broke through the air. The flying swords were controlled by Su Fong, allowing the 18 experts to easily catch the flying swords. Then, when the flying swords released sword seals, they seized the opportunity to fuse with them. These people could survive in the abyss space, so how could they not understand the importance of fusing with the sword spy? A set of ancient sword spy. It was not that it did not exist. Even if it existed, it was in the hands of a peerless expert or a peerless genius. Most of them were in the hands of big forces. How could an ordinary cultivator have such a rare treasure? The reason why the sword spy was a rare treasure was mainly because once it was activated, its power could surpass the power of countless magic treasures. Since ancient times, the sword spy was the most terrifying divine weapon. In a wasteland, there were many dangers. Even if these experts were existences in the profound immortal realm, their lives were still in danger at all times. If the 18 people could master the heartless sword spy, once they activated it, with their cultivation, even if they met a heaven-defying expert like an elder, they would not need to be afraid, even if they met a peerless big goblin. Therefore, fusing with the heartless sword spy was tantamount to giving themselves a protective talisman. Old fogies like them still don't understand this point. There was no need for Su Fong to urge them. Each and every one of them had a profound cultivation base and a greater understanding of Dao techniques than Su Fong. Furthermore, with their cultivation bases, they were able to control high-grade Dao artifacts. At this moment, the ruthless sword spy was not prepared for Su Fong, but was tailor-made for these peerless experts. Su Fong, on thinking that Dai Yi was in danger, immediately left the crucible transformation realm and arrived at the side of the several hidden experts. The three masters of Star Palace continued to display their supreme divine might. They transformed into the power of stars and controlled the formation to trap Dai Yi. Dai Yi lived up to her name as a peerless big goblin. Even though she was severely injured by the flying sword, she was still able to hold on. Although she was a demon, she was still a spirit, far more powerful than the average big goblin. Su Fong immediately transmitted a message through the rune talisman. Senior, hold on for a while longer. The experts under my command are quickly fusing with the heartless sword spy. Did you follow my orders and go to Proud Sky, Peaks Line Valley? Dai Yi's weak voice could be heard from the rune talisman. Of course I did. I found Senior's thread and incinerated it on the spot. Later on, it attracted Senior Proud Sky Chonghen's consciousness. Su Fong also told Dai Yi about his experience. That's good. I don't want to have too much contact with that man. Star Palace has suppressed me for 100,000 years. I must take revenge. Senior, please allow me to say a few words. You have already killed many disciples from the constellation of 9 heavens. Let go. The constellation of 9 heavens is a colossus. Senior, if you go against them, you are the one who will suffer. During my time in Star Palace, I kept hearing about how the higher-ups dealt with you. Junior came to Huang Zhe, Star Realm again, to remind Senior. Give up on revenge. How did Star Palace deceive me? Proud Sky Chonghen even personally sealed me. Such betrayal and betrayal must be understood. You can't interfere with my matters. Since you helped me escape this time, I will not treat you unfairly. Junior only felt that Senior should stay away from Star Palace. Star Palace, and I will not rest until one of us is dead. She didn't expect that Dai Yi, who originally wanted to persuade her, was also thinking for her sake, who knew that this expert didn't care at all. He disregarded everything and insisted on going against Star Palace. It wasn't hard to guess the outcome. In the end, she would fall into a desperate situation again. Butterfly Demon. Wait for another day. Suddenly, outside the Great Formation, the Star Palace elder laughed eerily. You miscalculated this time. You were chased to a desperate situation by Star Palace and escaped into the abyss. Do you think you can save your life? I am under orders to kill you. It's useless even if you run to the ends of the earth. Immortal Changgu, even if you kill me, you will not be able to leave the abyss. But at least I can get rid of you and take revenge for Elder Sui Ningchuan and countless disciples. If I die here, the 3 of you will be my scapegoat. It's not bad at all. You are also an elder. It's worth it for me. Butterfly Demon, don't be so arrogant. If I had known earlier, I would have killed you at Proud Sky Peak when you were pestering Proud Sky Chonghen. The elder named Immortal Changgu was disdainful at first, but after a few words, he was enraged by Dai Yi's provocation. How could such an elder be so easily enraged? Elder, this demon won't be able to hold on for long. At most 6 days, we will be able to get rid of her. This demon is looking down on Star Palace. As long as we kill the big goblin, we can use the Supreme Elder's token to communicate with the heavens and earth. We can contact the dojo and ask the Supreme Elder to send someone to save us. This has happened before in our dojo. The big goblin still thinks that we are going to die here. The other 2 experts sneered coldly. You don't have time. 6 days. Su Fong was very anxious when he heard that. He immediately returned to the Crucible Transformation Realm. He used all his strength to activate the Sword Spy and worked with the 18 experts to fuse the flying swords. Before the 4th day, in about 5 days, with the help of the Crucible Transformation Realm and Su Fong, the 18 experts finally mastered the various flying swords arrays, sword seals, and sword arts. They were indeed peerless experts. If these people were heavenly immortals or mystic immortals, they would not be able to master it even after a few months. Su Fong brought the crucible transformation realm to the side of the ruined mountain. He ordered the other experts to continue hiding. He found a spot halfway up the mountain, right in between two mountains. There was floating dust everywhere, which could be used to hide the experts. He activated the Heaven's Secret Life shrinking technique. He covered the gap between the two mountains. Within a distance of 1 li, the 18 experts each grabbed a heartless flying sword and escaped into the void. Su Fong controlled the sword spy and hid in the depths of the cliff. When everything was ready, Su Fong transmitted a message to Dai Yi. As soon as Dai Yi heard this, within a few breaths of time, the array suddenly exploded violently. Butterfly Demon, where do you think you are going? The ravine set off destructive flames like a dust explosion. Then, Elder Immortal Changu roared. Following that, a few wind-breaking sounds could be heard. They were quickly flying towards this location. Su Fong used his perfect circle ability. He saw Dai Yi flying at the front. She had more wounds on her body. It could be seen that it was not easy to struggle out of the array alone. Whoosh! The next second, Dai Yi flew into the sword formation that had been set up for an ambush. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. Immortal Changu led the two great masters and chased after them under the power of the great perfection. They rode their swords less than 100 meters behind them and chased them into the sword formation space. Suddenly, in the silent void behind the two mountains, several loud shouts suddenly rang out. Buzz! It was originally a dusty void, but suddenly, a layer of sword light and Xianguang covered the 1 li space. All kinds of sword chi appeared. Chi! On the other side, Dai Yi flew out of the sword array. There's an ambush. Kill! Within the 100-meter formation, Immortal Changu and his two experts ignored the surrounding sword formations and actually flew towards the sword formation that Dai Yi had flown out from. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. However, what awaited these people were the merciless flying swords, as well as the sword waves formed by the sword chi that filled the sky. They instantly covered these people. With the Heartless Sword Spy and the 18 experts, no matter how strong these people were, they would not be able to do anything. Unless Immortal Changu was not seriously injured, there might be a chance. But now, there was no chance at all. Su Fong did not care about the sword array. He believed in the Heartless Sword Spy. In a flash, he arrived beside Dai Yi. He released a Yang energy field and covered Dai Yi. He then took out a pill. Senior, this is a high-grade ancient pill. Take it. Dai Yi felt the Yang energy and was overjoyed. She knew that Su Fong had Yang energy, but she did not expect his Yang energy to be so extraordinary that it could heal her wounds. She swallowed the pill and did not doubt Su Fong. It really is an ancient pill. I haven't seen you for a while, and you've become a celestial immortal. Even a Heartless Sword Spy was used to this extent. You could be considered a strong expert now. Junior still needs to work hard. Su Fong was relieved to see that Dai Yi was not in danger. He ordered the experts hidden behind the mountains to leave the canyon and save Mao Chong and the other cultivators. He also brought back the corpses of the two from Star Palace. Of course, he also brought back Lady Yellow Moon's corpse. Senior, Junior has a request. Su Fong suddenly bowed when Dai Yi's breathing became better and she approached the formation with killing intent. What is it? Among the three from Star Palace, other than Immortal Changu, the other two can be killed. Recently, Junior has been targeted by enemies in Star Palace. If you can suppress Immortal Changu and use him for me, Junior will be protected by an elder once I return to Star Palace. This will make it easier for Junior to cultivate in Star Palace. With your strength and ability, there is no need for you to return to the constellation of 9 heavens. There is no one in that place who can be considered righteous. If you go there, you will change as time passes. It is better for you to come out to the boundless world and live a carefree life. You were weak before, and I understand why you insisted on staying in Star Palace. But now that you have such ability and can deal with elders, why do you still want to stay in Star Palace? Senior, to be honest, there is something special in Star Palace that Junior must obtain. Moreover, Junior is now learning alchemy and refining techniques. I also need Star Palace to nurture me. Once Junior obtains that special power, Junior will not take Star Palace seriously. If an elder dies, then so be it. What does it have to do with me? Since you are so confident, I will promise you. Immortal Chong Gu killed Lady Yellow Moon, and I wanted to take revenge for her. Although I am a monster, I do not care about friends like humans. Senior, thank you for granting my wish. It seemed that Dai Yi was easier to talk to than last time. Last time, she killed Sui Ningchuan at will. This time, she met an elder who was stronger than Sui Ningchuan. She actually did Su Fong a huge favor. At that moment, a few experts rescued Mao Chong and more than 10 cultivators. These cultivators expressed their allegiance to Su Fong one after another. As for Lady Yellow Moon's corpse, it was kept in Dai Yi's palm. As for the corpses of the 2 experts from Star Palace, they were naturally useful in Su Fong's hands. He threw them into Crucible Transformation and let Crucible Transformation refine them. This way, the experts could recover their strength. Chapter 1081. Su Fong removed the seal from Star Palace on Mao Chong's body. The others also removed their seals one by one and gave them many pills. Only then did Dai Yi notice that Su Fong was wearing the ghost face Rakshasa. She felt strange, but fortunately, she was familiar with his voice and aura. He ordered everyone to protect Dai Yi, while Su Fong flew into the sword formation alone. The moment he entered, it was 2 completely different worlds. The outside world was barren and filled with dust, while the inside world was filled with countless sword auras, forming all kinds of cutting sound waves. The sound waves formed sword auras that continuously surged within the sword formation world. The 18 experts formed a circle and floated. In the middle of them were the emotionless flying swords that they controlled. They were constantly attacking the 2 Star Palace experts in the depths. Originally, there were 3 of them, but one of them had already been killed by the emotionless swords. Not even his bones were left behind. The 18 emotionless flying swords, under the control of the 18 experts, were chaotic inside the formation. The flying swords were distorted and pierced through the void. There was no space for Immortal Changgu and the other expert to escape. They also used their flying swords to defend and attack. But every time they attacked, they would be attacked by the emotionless flying swords. In addition, the surrounding sword waves were constantly attacking them. The 2 of them were already badly mutilated. Master, the 18 experts saw Su Fong appear and saluted together. Su Fong was still carrying the ghost face Rakshasa. Like thunder, he turned into an unparalleled air wave that passed through the sword formation and exploded with an unparalleled divine aura. Immortal Changgu, you are an elder. It is not worth it for you to die. Kill the cultivator next to you first. Yes, master. Following Su Fong's order, countless sword auras passed by Immortal Changgu and pounced on the other cultivator. It was a pity that the other immortal was strong. Unfortunately, with Immortal Changgu, he could still hold on. At this moment, facing a large number of flying swords and layers of sword force, he was quickly submerged. Elder, save me. From the depths of the sword force came the expert's cry for help. Extreme doubt, Nebula, I am the heavens. The astute, Immortal Changgu naturally understood that there was no hope for that person. He also saw that the other person had attracted a large number of attacks and experts' attention. At this moment, a dazzling nebula shot out from his body. Along with the nebula vortex, the layers of sword formations were blasted away, as expected of an elder. The sword formation set up by Su Fong and the 18 experts was unexpectedly shattered by him. Of course, this person was still in a seriously injured state. The elder's strength was indeed extraordinary. If I don't teach you a lesson, you won't know how many eyes Prince Ma has. Suddenly, Su Fong formed a hand seal, and a large amount of blood poison surged out from his hand. The inside trembled. An immortal Long Gu could be seen howling in pain. He flashed out from behind the nebula vortex and hurriedly used his chi to control the blood poison in his body. Not only can I use poison to restrain you, I can also... At this moment, Su Fong did not want to kill this elder. Instead, He wanted this person's heart to be shaken and his mental defenses to begin collapsing. This way, he would have a chance to convince this expert. Sword formation form. Suddenly, a stream of starlight, true qi, gushed out from Su Fang's surroundings with the momentum of stormy waves, pouring into the surrounding sword formations. Unexpectedly, in an instant, most of the sword formations gushed out with starlight identical to that of immortal Changgu. The 18 experts in the surroundings were incomparably shocked. Master. At the same time, on the other side, the merciless flying swords returned to the sword formation from the sun of blood mist. It turned out that the expert had already been killed. Immortal Longu was unable to restrain the blood poison, and had also forgotten about the existence of the blood poison. This was because when he saw the starlight aura in the surroundings, he also felt that it was hard to believe. He immediately sized up Su Fang in shock. You are me. You are an expert of the constellation of 9 heavens. His trembling tone. This caused Su Fang's eyebrows to twitch. He estimated in his heart, and then slowly said, "You can say that you are cultivating my sect's cultivation technique. If you're not a disciple of my Tao sect, then you are a traitor disciple who cultivated in the dojo. Since you also have starlight true qi, our bodies have the same qi. Why do you insist on killing me and instead help a big goblin? Do you know how many disciples that big goblin has killed in my dojo?" "I know, of course I know. Previously, when Elder Swaning Chuan was killed, I was also at the side. Furthermore, I personally killed an expert called Nangong Tuesday. I reckon that he was not an elder, but his strength was close to that of an elder. When I was cultivating in Star Palace, I started off as a temporary disciple. I didn't expect that being a temporary disciple wasn't easy. I had to live like a dog. The saddest thing was that I had no self-respect. My original name was erased, and I shared the same surname with the family that controlled the training ground. Not only that, when I was cultivating in Star Palace, I had to learn how to please experts and rely on forces. I couldn't stand on the wrong side, and I had to know how to behave. I had to know how to be a slave in whatever righteous path. I have never seen a righteous person in Star Palace. So, don't act all high and mighty in front of me. That is your misunderstanding of Star Palace." TSK. Immortal Longu had just retorted when Su Fang laughed in disdain. "Immortal Longu, the reason why I said so much and did not continue to kill you is because I want to know your answer. Do you want to be killed like Swaning Chuan, or do you want to live? Who in this world wants to die?" The latter's aura seemed to be locked. "All right, if you want to live, you have to submit to me as an expert under my command. Of course, I will not let you betray the constellation of 9 heavens. I will still let you return to the dojo and be an elder. You want me to submit to you? Why? I am not qualified. You are indeed not qualified. People of the evil path want me to submit to you? As an elder of Star Palace, I would rather die than submit. I would rather die than lower my head to an evil person like you." "Ha!" Su Fang suddenly laughed out loud. At that moment, an extremely domineering aura suddenly rose from his body. From his head, from his skin, from his innate qi. He was born with it and did not release it on purpose. "Then I will let you suffer. No one can say no in front of me. Of course, you can too. After I have tortured you enough, if you still do not agree, it will not be too late for me to kill you. In this abyss, the power of an elder's corpse can bring life force to many people. Don't even think about it." Immortal Changgu instantly formed a seal. The flying sword in his hand suddenly whizzed through the air and attacked Su Fang unexpectedly. The flying sword combined with the meteor-killing sword was able to have such speed and shocking sword chi. Clang, but before the flying sword could reach Su Fang, it was intercepted by a merciless flying sword in midair. The other merciless flying swords instantly surrounded Immortal Changgu. Su Fang also released more blood poison and controlled the array to suppress Immortal Changgu. Clang, clang, clang. 18 flying swords surrounded Immortal Changgu and attacked fiercely. Immortal Changgu also used his flying swords to counterattack and defend. As the saying goes, 2 fists cannot fight against 4 hands. His flying sword's aura was shattered again and again. Even the sword's body was hit by the merciless flying swords again and again. Chi in less than half an hour. A large amount of sword chi first shattered the flying swords in immortal Changgu's hands. Then, his defensive aura and many runes were shattered. In the end, the sword chi left countless wounds on his body as blood splattered everywhere. Go! Immortal Changgu was still resisting. It would be a pity if he died like this. A black disc took advantage of the moment when Immortal Changgu entered the demon sealing state and circled above his head. Demonic blood plate. The demonic blood plate began to be activated. The supreme primordial spirit's divine power began to cover him, layer after layer. In just a breath's time, Immortal Changgu struggled under the demonic chi that came from within. Just as the young immortal released the disc above his head, he was knocked back in his mind by the demonic chi and primordial spirit's divine power. Enter the box. Su Fong suddenly grabbed with his right hand. The sword spy rose into the air. The merciless flying swords controlled by the 18 experts obediently entered the sword spy. The array around them also disappeared at this moment. Demon, you demon. Immortal Changgu, who was trapped by the demonic blood plate, was covered in demonic chi. The demonic chi of the blood-red treasure had enveloped him, and he could only cry out powerlessly. Master actually has the demonic race's supreme treasure, the demonic blood plate. This is a legendary treasure. I have met many demonic Dao experts, but I have never seen them use such a terrifying treasure. One peerless expert after another gathered around the demonic blood plate. They weren't mocking the trapped Immortal Changgu, but sizing up the terrifying demonic blood plate. At this moment, all of these trapped experts felt heartfelt admiration for Su Fong. He possessed so many extraordinary treasures. When Dai Yi saw that the sword formation had been removed, she brought the other experts over to Su Fong. Where did you get such a treasure? I got by accident. Even this ghost-face Rakshasa was an accident. In the future, Junior's other identity will be the ghost-face Rakshasa. This mask is not bad. If you hadn't taken the initiative to contact me, I wouldn't have been able to tell it was you. Dai Yi's attention was once more drawn to the demonic blood plate. Immortal Changgu, there's no need for you to struggle. This demonic blood plate is a magic treasure of an ancient demonic Dao expert. It is specially used to shackle the Yuan spirit. Adding on the blood poison in your body, this poison has no antidote. It won't take your life for now, but who knows in the future? Come in. In front of these experts, Su Fong activated a cauldron transformation phantom. The true devil blood plate and Immortal Changgu were sucked into it. A peerless elder was suppressed just like that. Then he ordered the experts to follow Mao Chong to the surrounding ruined mountains to cultivate. Su Fongda gave each of them 100 yin-yang immortal sky pills, as well as high-grade immortal pills. This was especially true for Dai Yi. Su Fong gave her over 10,000 yin-yang immortal sky pills. These pills containing yang energy would definitely be of great help to her injuries. Everyone was resting in the ruined mountains. After this torment, they had all used up quite a bit of yuan qi. In less than a month, Dai Yi allowed Su Fong into her formation. When Su Fong saw Dai Yi, he found that her injuries were shocking. Even with the yin-yang immortal sky pills and her own resources, it would be difficult for her to recover in a short time. Seeing this, Su Fong placed the 2 corpses of the Star Palace's experts into his cauldron transformation. He sent the majority of the refined life energy into Dai Yi's body. I need yang energy. You can't be unwilling to part with it, right? Dai Yi still wasn't satisfied with this life energy. She looked deeply at Su Fong's body. It was as if she wanted to take something important from him. Yang energy. Su Fong pretended that it wasn't easy, but he still agreed in the end. After Dai Yi sat cross-legged and activated her demonic energy, Su Fong sent his yang energy into her body. Just like this, one human and one demonic beast transmitted energy. Not long after, a special spiritual energy also surged out of Dai Yi's body and entered Su Fong's body. Su Fong didn't have time to ask about this energy. After absorbing a portion of it, He didn't expect this energy to enter the yin-yang Dao wheel formed by the 18 yang meridians. It suddenly shook. Looking closely, he saw that the 19th yang meridian was successfully condensing. The 19th yang meridian was about to be born. Chapter 1082. He did not expect it. At such a time, trapped in the abyss, another yang meridian was about to be born. Originally, the abyss did not have any heaven and earth spiritual energy. Su Fong did not even dare to advance to the fourth heavenly immortal realm. However, he did not expect that because of his continuous cultivation of the 9 yang 9 transformations, he would obtain Dai Yi's special power and cultivate another yang meridian. In his shock, he used all his strength to activate the 9 yang 9 transformations. He used all his power to form the yin-yang Dao wheel from the 18 yang meridians to attack the 19th yang meridian. This kind of attack was very shocking. It was like a whirlpool of the yin-yang Dao wheel was burning and trembling. All the yang energy would pass through the fragments of the world. The power of yin and yang in the world was also increasing. He also activated the chaos essence divine realm to absorb the cold yin energy from the inside. He absorbed the yin energy into his body. This way, the yin energy of the yin-yang Dao wheel would be fused together. This made the yang energy more perfect and profound. Your yang energy is really different. Even Dai Yi noticed the changes in Su Fong. She could see and feel a shocking aura seeping out from Su Fong's skin. It was the yang energy that demons and cultivators needed. Yang energy was the source of all living things, especially for demons, spirit bodies, and natural life forms. Yang energy was something that could only be found by chance. This was because human cultivators could cultivate yang energy through cultivation. However, other life forms could not control this mysterious energy through cultivation. Su Fong smiled foolishly and said that he would leave for a while to break through. Then, he went to another part of the ruins. When he was alone, he immediately activated the illusory fire cloud and the pure yang true fire. His skin sizzled as it formed indescribable burning sparks in his body. This was because the two types of flames exploded from the depths of his body. In addition, the yin-yang Dao wheel was attacking at full force. This would cause the flames to burn in his body and form a destructive aura. The aura clashed with his flesh, bones, and meridians, forming sparks in his body. It was an indescribable scene. For a cultivator to be in such a state, to feel like he was being burned by the flames and about to turn into ashes, only those supreme, fire elemental divine arts cultivators could control this state. For a heavenly, immortal realm expert like him to dare to cultivate and control such a huge aura, there was no one else in the world. He was the only one who could do it. His body seemed to turn into a fire hole. Chi until a wave of flame, like a tongue of fire, suddenly shot out from the yin-yang Dao wheel formed by the 18 yang meridians. In an instant, the 19th yang meridian, which was charging outside, suddenly trembled. The entire meridian, which was burning with pure yang primordial fire, was extinguished and became a simple meridian with the color of jade. This meant that the 19th yang meridian had been successfully formed. At this moment, the yang meridian automatically moved and merged with the 18th yang meridian of the yin-yang Dao wheel. This way, the yin-yang Dao wheel had 19 yang meridians. It transformed into an extraordinary yin-yang Dao wheel formed by 19 yang meridians. When he activated the other yang meridians to release the yang energy, an indescribable yang energy surged out of the 19th yang meridian, as well as the power of the yin-yang world. At this moment, Su Fong felt as if all the pent-up frustrations in his body had suddenly been unlocked. Vast yang energy was surging mightily within his 19 yang meridians. The true qi in his body either directly entered from the world fragment or from the 19th yang meridian. In short, at this moment, Su Fong felt a qualitative change in his yang energy. The most obvious change was the slight increase in the weight of his yang energy. Also, the surging life force in his body was very shocking. The tenacity of his life force could almost be felt directly. This was the obvious change brought about by the increase in the yang meridian and the increase in yang energy. Su Fong swallowed many elixirs. Fortunately, he did not break through. However, because there was an additional yang meridian in his yin-yang Dao wheel, the yang energy in his body was much weaker than before. He still needed to cultivate further. Fortunately, he could constantly absorb cold energy from the chaos essence sacred realm. Along the way, he also felt that the spirit chi of the experts under him was decreasing. He actually gritted his teeth and came to an open ruin. He took out a shocking immortal stone spirit meridian that he had obtained from the 100 Virtues ancient demon Dao field and inserted it into the ruin to implant an array formation. The spirit meridian became the array core. This spirit meridian was a peerless gem that had been passed down from ancient times. It was much stronger than the previous spirit meridian. The importance of resources also showed at this time. Without resources, Su Fong and the others would not be able to replenish the vital qi they had lost. They would not be able to cultivate. Cultivators had vital qi and other special powers, but all of this was built on natural spirit qi. The spirit qi of all things in nature was the source of all things. Without natural spirit qi, cultivators could not increase their strength at all. The effect of just using some immortal stones was not too obvious. However, with a spirit meridian, it was different. Spirit meridian was formed from the essence of heaven and earth. There were very few of them. One spirit meridian represented the pure spirit chi condensed by heaven and earth. It was also the power that the abyss space lacked the most. Master's divine power is unparalleled. He took out a spirit meridian and created an array formation for everyone to cultivate. With this effort, he conquered Mao Chong and more than 30 experts. Perhaps they had submitted to Su Fong because of the immortal pills, or because they wanted to survive, or because they had no other choice. But now, after interacting with Su Fong, they knew how extraordinary Su Fong was. He had so many magical treasures, so many abilities, and he had even generously taken out a spirit meridian for them to cultivate. Such a peerless spirit meridian was something that even large powers would not be willing to take out for their disciples to cultivate. But Su Fong had directly taken it out for these suppressed cultivators to fuse with. How could they not be convinced by Su Fong? Even Dai Yi had not expected Su Fong to possess such a precious treasure. She was not stingy and entered the array to absorb the spirit meridian's energy. Her aura would occasionally transform into a pair of silver wings, giving her the appearance of a butterfly person. Fortunately, with the spirit meridian and the many resources and treasures she had devoured, Dai Yi's vital qi was recovering. However, her injuries were recovering very slowly. Su Fong looked at the other experts. Their injuries had all recovered, and they were all taking advantage of the opportunity to absorb the spirit meridian's spiritual qi to strengthen their bodies. Time passed, and Su Fong slowly opened his eyes. He had already activated his newly formed 19th yang meridian. His entire body was in a nearly saturated state. Because he had long since reached the peak of the third heavenly immortal realm, once he left the abyss, he would be able to break through to the next level. At this time, several experts walked out from their cultivation. Su Fong Wei ordered, "Mao Chong, take a few experts and continue to search for trapped cultivators in the depths of the ruins. Persuade them to join me." Mao Chong took some medicinal pills and flew into the depths of the ruins with a few experts. Dai Yi suddenly suppressed her aura. Her injuries had recovered by about 50%, but some were still too obvious. We should also take a look at this abyss. We can't stay here for too long. Immortal Changgu is an elder, and his status is even higher than Sui Ningchuan's. The constellation of 9 heavens might send out some peerless experts. The Star Palace has terrifying existences, and if they use their divine abilities to come here, I'll definitely die. This is indeed a matter of utmost importance. With a glance, he had the same thought as Dai Yi. They couldn't be trapped here forever. The two flew out of the array at the same time. They floated in the almost still, sealed sky. Dai looked around and then up at the sky. Although I've been cultivating for a long time, this is the first time I've fallen into the abyss outer space. It won't be easy to find a way out. Since ancient times, cultivators who fell into such outer space rarely came out alive. However, there are rumors that very few cultivators can come out alive, so there's still a bit of hope. Let's fly to the top and take a look. At the same time, they flew through the sky. Not long after, a layer of multicolored nebula appeared. It felt like the last substance in the world, trapping the two below. This was the boundary, which was also the essence. It was a kind of natural boundary formed by space. This was also what Luo had said, a crack in the natural space. Move back. After a moment of silence, Dai was about to make a move. This was the only way. Su Fong could only retreat. With his strength, he couldn't get too close to Dai. Even if she was injured, a powerful aura was enough to tear his body to shreds. Suddenly, there was a rustling sound. Dai was forming a seal. Unfortunately, there was no spiritual energy of heaven and earth in the surroundings. Even so, Dai, who had cultivated for many years, suddenly created a 10-zhong long finger mark in the surroundings under this absolute power. The power of this finger mark was estimated to be at the peak of a high-grade Dao tool. Dai clearly wanted to use her strength to break the abyss spatial barrier. The finger mark was like a hammer hammering a nail. It was heavy and powerful. With a bang, it hit the faintly glowing abyss barrier. The barrier was instantly struck, but it didn't shake. Instead, the finger mark shattered on its own. All the shocking aura crashed into the barrier, but didn't budge in the slightest. Dai had consumed a certain amount of true qi. Since this move wasn't enough, she didn't continue to attack. Instead, she released a special type of true qi that slowly merged with the glowing barrier. It seemed like she wanted to use her true qi to penetrate the barrier. But even after several days, the barrier still hadn't been touched. The abyss spatial barrier was as firm as the world barrier of a great world. In the end, Dai gave up. She returned to the air with Su Fong and began to fly to the end of the ruins. What they encountered was also an incomparably firm, glowing barrier. They flew along the edge for a long time, but still couldn't find a place where Dai could open the barrier. Fortunately, even if the two of them couldn't do anything, others should have a way. Su Fong immediately contacted Mao Chong and the other experts under his command. He learned that at the end of the barrier, there was a terrifying crack in the abyss. But no one knew where the abyss led to. Someone had entered, but they never returned. Su Fong and Dai didn't let go of this fleeting opportunity. They found the abyss crack and saw that it was indeed a dark abyss with a terrifying flow of air. It was an abyss crack in the deep space. It seems that our way out is here. Whether we live or die, we have to give it a try. But I need to recover my strength and injuries. I need to recover at least 70%. This requires the cooperation of your yang qi. In other words, I need to absorb your yang qi to recover. Are you willing? After returning to the array, Dai had an idea. She suddenly calmed down and stared deeply at Su Fong. Su Fong nodded. This junior will do his best to help senior recover. Of course, I will also give you my special power. After receiving Su Fong's affirmation, Dai began to sit cross-legged with Su Fong in the array. When Su Fong released his yang qi, she absorbed it without hesitation. Unexpectedly, her aura, skin, and complexion all began to change. At the same time, her special power also poured into Su Fong. He didn't expect that. After absorbing Dai's power, outside the newly formed 19 yang meridians, the 20th yang meridian that was in the process of breaking through suddenly began to tremble. Su Fong was astonished. This is the 20th yang meridian that is in the process of breaking through. It feels like it's about to be born and transform. Chapter 1083. Why was it like this? Just a while ago, the 19th yang meridian had just been born. According to his previous cultivation experience, It was impossible for it to be born so quickly without a certain amount of time. Thinking of this, Su Fong couldn't figure it out. However, he discovered one thing and also the reason. It was because Dai Yi had released her special energy. When this energy entered his body and entered his meridians, it seemed to be urging the 20th Yang meridian to be born faster. It had a lot to do with Dai Yi. I'll first activate Primordial Chaos, Sacred Realm. Since this meridian is about to be born, I'll absorb more frost chi and let it condense as quickly as possible. He was about to start attacking the Yang meridian again. Su Fong also seemed to have lost his mind. He activated Primordial Chaos, Sacred Realm, and then let the 9 Yin energy enter his body and fuse with the 9 Yang energy. Then, when combined with Dai Yi's special energy, the Yang meridian's activity became more and more shocking. It also burned with a shocking amount of pure Yang true fire. His body was in a state of frenzy. Pure Yang true fire burned and Yang energy boiled. Su Fong suddenly separated a strand of consciousness and entered the depths of the blood jade. Law, do you know why Dai Yi's energy can suddenly increase my Yang energy? Law, who was trapped in the blood jade space, was immediately energized. I don't know much about your cultivation technique, but during the time I was in your body, I noticed that your energy is mainly Yang energy. I've never seen this kind of special Yang energy before. My understanding of Yang energy is something that few cultivators can compare to. That's why I'm completely confused by the changes in my body just now. The one beside you is that butterfly demon. First, you have to figure out her origins. Do you know what her background is? A butterfly transformed into a big goblin. That's right, but she's also a spiritual body, a type of monster. Butterfly demons are very rare. There's only one place that has them, and that's your era's legendary spirit race. I've read about the spirit race in ancient texts. They're very mysterious. The spirit race is different from the demon race. Although they're also demons, they don't have much demon chi. Instead, they absorb the spiritual energy of heaven and earth. They're monsters that absorb spiritual energy and are called spiritual bodies. This butterfly demon isn't a demon. She's a spirit beast, far stronger than ordinary demons. In front of Su Fong, who was looking forward to solving the puzzle, Luo slowly said, "Moreover, this butterfly demon has an amazing amount of heaven and earth essence chi and yin chi. After these two forces fuse, it will turn into a kind of heaven and earth yin chi. It is not the kind of cold chi that you usually feel, but a special kind of yin chi that does not have much cold chi. This is the power of a spirit body. You can see that she is absorbing your yang chi, which means that the power in her body can be fused with your yang chi. In your yang body, the first time you encounter a special spirit body yin chi, there will naturally be a strong change. If you didn't tell me, I wouldn't have been able to figure it out. In short, the power of the butterfly demon is the power of a spiritual body. It's also the power of the spirit race. It's very special. She's born with the energy of heaven and earth, which can transform into special spiritual energy and true energy. Then she'll also have some demon chi. If you take the initiative to absorb her energy, it'll help you grow stronger for a short time. But once you have the power of the spirit race in your body, the next time you absorb her true energy, your transformation won't be as shocking. I have to take advantage of this opportunity." His consciousness disappeared from the blood jade. After returning to his divine aperture yang immortal main body, Su Fong slowly opened his eyes and looked at Dai Yi, who was sitting cross-legged 3 meters in front of him. He did not expect her power to be so unique. No wonder she could kill 9 Heaven Stars Palace's elder Sui Ningchuan and immortal Changgu. He quickly absorbed the special spiritual energy from Dai Yi. The energy entered his body and permeated throughout his body. Then, according to the circulation, entered the yin-yang Tao wheel formed by the 19 yang meridians. Then it transformed into the yin-yang energy of the world and charged into the newest meridian. This cycle was the law of cultivation. Minor heavenly cycle, major heavenly cycle, and so on. The movements in his body became more and more intense. The yang energy released by Su Fong was only 1/10 of the power in his body. He wasn't an idiot. He wouldn't let someone else absorb his true power of the nine yang. The yang energy released was not the nine yang energy, but the normal yang energy. But it was very abundant, just enough for Dai Yi to absorb. Her absorption speed was also increasing. As time passed, Dai Yi's external injuries were more or less healed. Adding on the fact that she was absorbing the energy of the spirit vein, she had recovered 50% of her true energy. If this continued, it shouldn't be a problem for her to recover 70%. In the depths of the ruins, no one had expected there to be such a large formation. Inside the formation, there are dozens of experts cultivating crazily. There is also a peerless ancient spirit vein. 3 years passed in the blink of an eye. Su Fong, who was sitting cross-legged in the air and absorbing Dai Yi's energy, opened his eyes and a flame ignited. It wasn't the illusory fire cloud. It was. The 20th Yang Meridian is about to be born. Now that it's at its peak, I must succeed in one shot. It will be difficult to find such a good opportunity in the future. But I have to suppress the 9 Yang energy and let the normal Yang energy seep out. Otherwise, with Dai Yi's ability, she will definitely sense the existence of extraordinary Yang energy. At such a juncture, Su Fong released a large amount of normal Yang energy and sealed it in the flesh membrane on the surface of his body. The 9 Yang energy was also sealed under the membrane. Then, he maintained the state of releasing normal Yang energy. After a certain balance was maintained, he used the absorbed energy of the Ling tribe to cooperate with the origin essence sage to release more energy of extreme cold. At the newest meridian, the pure Yang true fire burned wildly. The meridian was attacked by the Yang energy again and again, and felt like it would shatter at any moment. At this moment, the flame had reached its peak. By the time Su Fong reacted, this meridian was in a state of flames. It was like a long white and red snake. In an instant, the surging aura disappeared, leaving behind a very familiar Yang meridian. This was the 20th Yang meridian. I didn't expect to meet Dai Yi here and fight with the experts of the Star Palace. I thought I was too unlucky. Who knew that I would be able to cultivate 2 Yang meridians after falling into this abyss? In the past, cultivating the Yang meridian required time to settle down. But I didn't expect that cultivating the Yang meridian would have such a fortuitous encounter. Encountering a special power directly affects the state of cultivation of the Yang meridian. It's unbelievable. If this continues as long as I have the opportunity, it won't be difficult to cultivate the Yang meridian. Seeing that the Yang meridian was formed, his heart finally calmed down. However, it was still beating violently. He channeled all of his Yang energy out of the yin-yang Dao wheel and used it to cultivate the 20th Yang meridian. At that moment, this Yang meridian merged with the 19th Yang meridian that had formed earlier. Now, the yin-yang Dao will had 20 Yang meridians and could store even more true qi. The key was that there was an additional Yang meridian. It came from the mysterious supreme law of the yin-yang Dao wheel, causing the Yang energy to undergo a miraculous change. The weight of the Yang energy also changed significantly. If this continued, Su Fong felt like he had been cleansed of all impurities and welcomed a kind of simplicity and weight. At this moment, his Yang energy suddenly stopped flowing. Dai Yi was suppressing her own aura. When she saw Su Fong in a daze, she smiled in a good mood. Thank you for your Yang energy. When I first met you, I sensed your Yang energy. I didn't expect that you would be able to help me escape danger today. Senior, how much have you recovered? Around 70%. But if I continue to cultivate without natural spiritual qi, with my special power, I won't be able to recover much. Now we can go to the crack in the abyss. Yes. Mao Chong hurriedly ordered the experts who were cultivating to gather. There were 35 people in total. Unfortunately, Mao Chong and the others were unable to find the other trapped cultivators. These experts were all above Shin Immortal. None of them were Sky Immortals. Moreover, these people had all recovered between 60 and 70%. Their strength was also very shocking. He released void dust cauldron transformation and sucked in the 35 experts, as well as the huge spirit vein. The formation also instantly disappeared. How is Immortal Chang'u? He still hasn't submitted to you. At this moment, Dai Yi and Su Fong were flying through the air. I'll use devouring poison and true fire to slowly torture him. It doesn't matter. It's best if this kind of person can submit, but if he can't, then he's just a dead dog. I'll just kill him. You have to be careful when dealing with this kind of old man. Dai Yi was still a bit worried. This was why she wanted to kill the elders and not suppress them. Not everyone could perfectly control a cultivator. In less than an hour, the two of them arrived at the end of the abyss. It was a crack in the abyss. It was dark, and there were some streams of energy sweeping through it. It was unfathomable. They didn't know how dangerous it was. Forget it. I can't think of Luo every time I run into trouble. Originally, there was someone who could help Su Fong. Naturally, it was Luo, but he rejected that idea. Luo's words were very reasonable. Cultivation had to be done step by step. What you obtained yourself was completely different from what others gave you. Su Fong's gaze was decisive. He reached out, and his fan floated out. Senior, Junior has an ancient fan. Oh, where did you get such a treasure? Even Dai Yi found it hard to believe. Well, I stole it from an expert called by Tsubing when he wasn't paying attention. You even dared to offend by Tsubing. Senior, do you know him? How could I not know him? He's cultivated for about the same time as Outyin Chanen, and he also has the power of an elder. Furthermore, he's an expert in refining poisons. Everyone is wary of him. Although he's not from the devil path, he's a shameless and vicious expert. You actually dared to steal his treasure? With his personality, wouldn't he be looking for you? Who cares? I have the Ghoul Eater, so I'm not afraid of his poisons. Brat, you're still young and your cultivation base isn't high, yet you keep on offending experts. Do you have 9 lives? Forget it, there's no need for the fan. My innate ability is speed, and I can control space to a certain extent. Just follow me. Right, can you take off your ghoul face, Rakshasa? I can't. If I encounter by Tsubing, then even if I have 9 lives, it won't be enough. I'm just not used to it. When Su Fong put away the feather fan, Dai Yi released her aura and brought Su Fong into the abyss of the crack in the ruins. This was an expert. She didn't hesitate at all. Buzz. But as they entered the abyss, they encountered some air currents and dust. Dai Yi's aura began to show signs of damage. Fortunately, she was strong enough to control her aura. Otherwise, it would definitely break. 30 meters in, the aura began to tear even more. And at this time, black smoke began to seep out. This black smoke was a special energy of the abyss, so cultivators couldn't easily absorb it. It felt like they were passing through clouds and then a storm. But Dai Yi continued to transform her special spirit race energy into an aura. It felt like her power had obtained the approval of heaven and earth. Chapter 1084. But even with Dai Yi's special power, Su Fong still felt that the aura field would shatter at any time, and they would be swallowed by the ruins. ZZZ Dai Yi and Su Fong were like a fireball falling into the dark world. Neither of them knew what was in the depths, and they could only keep moving forward. Suddenly, when the aura field was about to burn out, and Dai Yi could not hold on any longer, a twisting force suddenly appeared in the dark clouds. Before Dai Yi could react, the aura field was shattered, and Dai Yi was sucked into it. Front. At this moment, Su Fong was like a lost lamb, watching Dai Yi disappear in front of his eyes. He could not do anything, and he was nervous and panicked to the extreme. When Dai Yi disappeared and was sucked into the twisting force, he lost Dai Yi's protection in the next second. His body was crushed by the terrifying abyss, and he was sucked away by the twisting force in the blink of an eye. When he could no longer control his body and feel the weight, he saw that outside the twisting darkness he was in was a peerless lightning. It was this lightning that controlled the dark space Su Fong was in. It was as if the lightning was taking him through time and space, away from the abyss. Everything in the world he saw was dark, except for this lightning that was not dazzling, but dominated the dark void he was in. It was indeed shuttling, no, tearing apart the dark space. ZZZ in less than 3 breaths. A huge force seemed to throw Su Fong out of the dark space. He was glad that the dark heavenly lightning did not hit his body directly. Otherwise, even a high-grade Tao artifact would have been hit by such heavenly lightning, let alone a heavenly immortal. Su Fong was sucked into the twisting space in front of him again. With a crash, he suddenly felt the weight and the cold aura around him. He steadied himself and looked around. This was no longer the void, but mysterious space similar to the abyss. Could it be that below the Huang Zhe astral realm, there was another abyssal space? Su Fong ignored his seriously injured body and looked around, releasing his senses. This place is different, and there is spiritual energy of heaven and earth. Although it is not very abundant, at least there is some power. Moreover, there isn't much dust here. Instead, it's extremely cold. It seems like this place has existed for a very long time. Even the ruins below have formed solid rocks. Floating in midair, his body trembled. Su Fong came back to his senses and immediately tried to sense Dai Yi. However, he couldn't sense her aura. He then activated the rune talisman. However, after half an incense stick of time, there was still no movement. What's up? Could it be that Dai Yi didn't come to this space when she followed that terrifying bolt of lightning? It was as if the world had suddenly evaporated. Just thinking about it sent chills down his spine. After calming down for a while, he could only rely on himself to figure out where he was and where Dai Yi was. After landing, he discovered that there were some sparse shrubs not far ahead. There were no giant trees, but there were also some giant mountains. He found a cave and began to absorb the spiritual chi of heaven and earth. The spiritual chi here was 1/10 of the normal density. Although it was scarce, with Su Fong's ability, he could still absorb it normally. Another 35 experts were lured out. Some of them were cultivating, and a few of them were sent out to take a look around. First, they had to figure out what kind of place this was. Because there was some spiritual chi, these experts were very excited. How many years had it been since they last absorbed spiritual chi of heaven and earth? Su Fong also asked Mao Chong and the others, but they also couldn't tell where this place was. His injuries were constantly recovering. Soon, several experts returned with some white bones and magic weapons, as well as the corpse of the big goblin. Master, this space is very big. It doesn't look like an ordinary abyss space. Moreover, there are some traces in some places. I estimate that there are living cultivators here. Several experts said to Su Fong. It seemed that there were still some gains. In fact, as long as he thought about it, there was natural spiritual chi here. There were also some plants. Obviously, compared to the abyss space, there were more likely to be cultivators here. Moreover, the cultivators here were not like the abyss space. They could absorb spiritual chi here. Even if they absorbed it slowly, these cultivators still had strong overall strength. After recovering, he had the experts return to the crucible transformation realm. Then he stepped on his flying sword alone and used his great circle perception ability to move forward. He encountered more and more mountain ranges. After taking a closer look, he found that these mountains used to be ruins. After countless years of accumulation, they turned into rocks, forming a natural state that was similar to the ground. Sure enough, there are traces. He entered the depths for more than 2 hours. Suddenly, he saw a cave on a mountainside. The cave was clean, and there were some clear footprints. It seemed that there were still cultivators here not long ago. After crossing the mountainside, there was some fog in the void ahead. Coupled with the amazing cold air, Su Fong felt that this place was very dangerous. His robe was frozen, and his silk was starting to turn white. However, the ghost-faced Rakshasa on his face was not affected by the cold air. He still flew forward, but his brows suddenly raised. His great circle vision allowed him to look at the valley below. In the center of the valley, there was a faint demonic chi being released. Seeing this scene, he immediately looked down and saw what it was. On the flat ground in the center of the valley, there was a huge snake 100 feet long. Unfortunately, the snake should have died long ago. The snake's skin on its body was falling off. Since it was a dead thing, Su Fong did not care much about it. Moreover, it was a corpse. The corpse also had treasures. There were spiritual beads inside, so why not take it? It was simply giving him a treasure. Su Fong arrived several meters above the corpse. When he looked again, the snake did not seem to have died a natural death. How could such a big goblin die in such a place? Around the giant snake, Su Fong actually saw several dark red seal marks. They seemed to have lost the slightest bit of spiritual power or shackling power. But seeing that the seal covered the giant snake's corpse, it was obvious that the seal had killed the giant snake. Who had left the seal? To be able to seal such a huge snake to death, it had to be at least an elder like Swaning Chuan. Feeling that the seal should have died with the snake and lost most of its magic power, he decisively landed next to the snake's corpse. He took out a flying sword and cut open the snake's corpse. As expected, a fist-sized spiritual bead with a demonic red luster was caught in Su Fong's hand. Chi! Who would have thought that the dark red seal covering the snake's corpse and the ground, which was about 1,000 feet long, would suddenly start to burn, sending out a burst of sparks. It's a pity to kill such a huge snake. Seeing the seal disappear, Su Fong felt pity for the snake. If it was still alive, it should have been as strong as Tang Ba. Chi! Just as Su Fong was about to leave, who would have thought that just as he released his great perfection ability, he would hear the sound of wind breaking. It was flying towards a valley at an unbelievable speed from a few miles away. Something was wrong. Why did a peerless master appear when the seal disappeared after touching the snake? With Su Fong's speed, it was impossible for him to escape now. He immediately summoned the Wuling Goblin and drilled into its stomach. The latter also used its own ability and came to a rock a few hundred meters away. It merged with the rock. Its aura was perfect like the rock, becoming a part of nature. Whoosh! The sound of a sword shuttled through the sound waves, almost cutting the space apart. Then, a black-robed old man suddenly floated next to the snake's corpse. Su Fong, who was hiding inside the Wuling Goblin, used his great perfection ability to see clearly. Although this person is dressed in black, I can see many flame Taoist patterns that symbolize Huiyin Shinrikyo on his black Taoist robe. This is a peerless master from Huiyin Shinrikyo. Huiyin Shinrikyo. Naturally, he was no stranger to it. Sensing the black-robed old man's cultivation, he estimated that this person was a peerless master with the strength of an elder. From this, it could be seen that there were still very powerful people in this unknown cold space. The black-robed old man waved his hand, and the dark red seal that disappeared before appeared around the snake's corpse. He carefully sensed it, as if he was looking for something. Another ant escaped. The old man was furious. He turned to look at the snake's corpse and slapped it with his palm. Boom! The snake's corpse was instantly crushed into powder by the force of the palm. Such a big goblin's corpse was very strong, but it was so weak under the force of the Huiyin Shinrikyo's palm. The old man was too powerful. The man glanced at his surroundings again, then suddenly leaped into the air and left the valley. That was close. Fortunately, I have the Wuling Goblin ability. Otherwise, I would have nowhere to go. Even a master like the Huiyin Shinrikyo is trapped here. He didn't understand. He didn't know if this was an alien space but from the looks of it, this was also an alien space. After a full 2 hours, he flew out of the Wuling Goblin's body and absorbed the spiritual bead into his body. This was an amazing power. Then, he hurriedly flew in another direction. He was constantly releasing the power of the great perfection stage. He didn't want to encounter that old man. However, in less than half an hour, when he passed by a large pile of rubble, he suddenly sensed the presence of a life force. It came out from under a large rock in the rubble. Although it was very weak, Su Fong could sense it. Especially with his hearing, he could hear the other party's weak breathing. It was a cultivator. What a coincidence. Su Fong thought for a moment. If he wanted to know where this place was, he had to find someone to ask. So, he flew towards the rubble. When he was 10 feet away, a figure suddenly flew out of the rubble at a speed several times faster than him. flying in another direction. Su Fong was startled. Was the other party afraid of him? He chased after him and transmitted his voice. "Sir, I don't have any evil intentions. I just want to know where this place is. Leave. Don't release any aura." The figure passed by Su Fong, but Su Fong's speed was not slow either. He was just left behind by a small distance. When he saw Su Fong following him, he sternly berated him. But seeing that Su Fong was still following, he added, "This is the Nether Ruins, the deepest alien space in the Huangze astral world. Don't think about leaving here alive. The only thing you can do is to find a place and hide. Don't release any aura." Nether Ruins. An alien space with a name. I've already told you. Then why don't you leave? You'll get me killed. You better not get too close to me. It's not good for you. The man shouted again with a cold face. At this time, Su Fong really didn't want to chase after him. However, you got me killed. Who knew that the cultivator in front of him would actually turn back and fly over? Hey! Su Fong didn't know what was going on, but when the cultivator passed over him, he suddenly heard a sound coming from the other side with his great circle powers. This speed, this sound, Su Fong, who turned pale with fright, seemed to know what the cultivator was afraid of. When he wanted to call out the Wuling Goblin, suddenly a figure in black spewed out a shocking aura. It rolled in front of him, and his whole body was trapped in the flying black power. Chapter 1085. Su Fong could not react at all. Fortunately, he did not summon the Wuling Goblin, or else even the Wuling Goblin would be trapped inside. It's him, inside the black power. Su Fong's senses disappeared, and he fell into absolute control. When he looked in front of him, outside of the black power, above the source of the power was the black-robed old man he saw before. That was the old man from Huiyin Shinrikyo. It was too unfortunate. He had luckily escaped the calamity, but in the end, he still fell into his hands. Only now did he feel the power of this old man. He was too terrifying, and his strength was probably not much different from a mortal Changgu. "Where are you running to? I've been looking for you for a long time." Inside the black power, he suddenly heard the old man laugh, and then a figure appeared from the side of Su Fong. There was one more person trapped in the black power. It was the cultivator who wanted to force Su Fong away. This person was also unable to move in the black power. It was a thin, middle-aged cultivator, and his eyes looked at Su Fong helplessly. "You really got me killed." "No, I have the Purple Cloud Dharma Spirit. My luck should be pretty good." Su Fong was puzzled when he heard that. Why did the other party keep a sour face? Chi! The black shackles that were moving through the air strangely stopped. It turned out that they were on the side of a mountain, and there were strange stones all around. Su Fong and the middle-aged cultivator were still unable to move, but they could see the black-robed old man walking towards them step by step. His cold face was like a knife, revealing an unshakable sharpness and loftiness. "I have to prepare for a fight to the death." At a glance, he could tell that this person was a ruthless person, and he might even kill with a thought. His heart thumped a few times, and he immediately activated all kinds of methods. The old man did not even look at Su Fong and stared at the middle-aged cultivator next to him. "I have warned you many times to submit to my master, or you will die. I will not give you another chance. Just wait to be sealed and slowly wait for your death." Huff, huff. After saying that, he pressed down with his hand. Thunderous rumbling sounds echoed out, and the surrounding black power instantly turned dark red. Then it transformed into tens of dark red seals, which seemingly came to life, surrounding the middle-aged cultivator and Su Fong. That was especially true of the middle-aged cultivator, who had twice as many seals as Su Fong. It was likely that the old man had used most of his sealing power on the middle-aged cultivator. As for Su Fong, who was in the heavenly immortal realm, such sealing could be said to be superfluous. A heavenly immortal was nothing. The heavenly immortal realm was just trash. The old man would not place his focus on such an insignificant person. In an instant, the power of the shackles was like an enormous whip, causing the middle-aged cultivator and Su Fong to sit down like statues. Only their eyeballs could move. The dark red seal locked them down tightly, fusing them with the ground. It was as if a seal had emerged from the ground. My master's supreme divine ability has existed in the dark earth ruins for countless years. It's like you can't blaspheme it. Slowly die here. The old man's aura swept away and disappeared in an instant. After running around, we still end up like this. The middle-aged cultivator suddenly felt powerless. He did not look like a cultivator at all. The only thing he could do was to open his mouth and speak, or move his eyeballs around helplessly. On the other hand, the inconspicuous heavenly immortal realm cultivator at the side was secretly using his true chi. However, Su Fang's eyes were also filled with shock. This seal can actually stop the activation of magic power, divine power, and true chi. It can suppress all forces in the body and even activate yang, immortal, magic power, and true chi in the body. What kind of seal is this? You're blind. The middle-aged cultivator's eyes were filled with hatred. There's a strange power in the dark earth ruins. This strange power can control cultivators or confuse their minds. However, those cultivators can only wait for death after a long time. You and I will also die here. Su Fang's ears perked up curiously. How would I know what kind of evil power is in the dark earth ruins? Isn't this the abyss? The dark earth ruins is one of the deepest abyss spaces in the Huang Zhe astral world. Back then, I was the same as you. I accidentally got sucked into this place. I didn't know the situation, but I saw with my own eyes that the cultivators who got sucked into this place were captured by an expert under the command of the Lord of Dark World. No one here dares to oppose the Lord of Dark World. His experts are everywhere looking for cultivators. The Lord of Dark World. Don't use that kind of tone and that kind of gaze to try to find out who the Lord of Dark World is and where he came from. I don't know. No one here knows. The only thing we know is that the Lord of Dark World lives in the deepest part of Dark Cloud Valley. According to what you said, we won't be able to survive. Huh, you don't know the immensity of heaven and earth. Do you think a clown like you is more powerful than the elders of those big factions? Just now, an expert under the Lord of Dark World was a former elder of the Huyin Shinrikyo. Didn't he have to listen to the Lord of Dark World's orders? I don't want to wait for death like this. The other party looked like he was waiting for death. After calming down, Su Fang used his sensing ability. A special sensing ability wrapped around his body, as well as the dark red seal covering the ground. Fortunately, he could use his great perfection ability. It was difficult to use his true chi, yang immortal, and dermic powers as they were shackled by the power of the seal. However, the great perfection ability was a natural ability. How could it be suppressed? The great perfection ability is also a kind of true body power. Then, can I use the blood transformation true body and Black Lotus true body under this seal? But these two true bodies can't help me escape. I still have to rely on strength to deal with this seal. Unfortunately, I can't use my true chi or dermic powers now. Without the combination of the two, I can't use my divine ability. After thinking about it, he seemed to have reached a dead end. Although he could use his great perfection ability, his other true bodies couldn't shake the sturdy seal. He wanted to ask Luo, but he gave up. I got it. Since I can use my true body power, I can use the Yellow Spring Blood Sea. The Yellow Spring Blood Sea is also a true body power. Although I don't have the Yellow Spring true body, this true body and great perfection ability are both natural abilities. Maybe it will be useful. I can't wait for death. I can't give up. Finally, he thought of a way, and that was to use his true body power to escape the formation. Thinking of this, Su Fang ignored the middle-aged man, one zhang away, and directly used his great perfection ability, making his body start to shatter. Waves of shattering sounds rang out, causing the expert beside him to be even more astonished and shocked. In a short time, Su Fang disappeared and turned into a pool of blood. The blood seeped into the surroundings and wrapped the middle-aged man in the Yellow Spring Blood Sea state. The middle-aged man was really frightened. He looked at the evil aura around him and said, "Demonic cultivator, you are really a demonic cultivator. Anyway, this is the Nether Earth ruins. I can use any method. I can't care about anything else." After transforming into the yellow spring blood sea state, he felt that the seal that covered his body was still pressing on the blood water. It still had an amazing shackling ability. First, I will transform into the yellow spring blood sea state. Then, I will use this state to control the yellow spring blood sea, to condense a divine ability, and use my Dharma treasure to deal with this seal. Transforming into the yellow spring blood sea was only the first step. Next was the second step. In the tranquil yellow springs blood sea, about 10 feet of blood water suddenly boiled. Who would have thought that just as the blood sea was activated by Su Fong, the middle-aged man 3 meters away was corroded by the boiling blood water and began to peel off his skin. Su Fong glanced over and said, "Good. It seems that after cultivating for so long, I still have some special ability in the blood water. It's a devouring ability. This person is in the yellow spring blood sea, so he will naturally be affected." That pitiful expert wanted to struggle, but couldn't move. He could only watch as the blood water boiled and covered his body. The expert suddenly shouted in pain, You devil, stop! If you continue like this, my body will be destroyed by you." "Sorry." Suddenly, Su Fong's eyes flickered with the might of a former world overlord. "You want to live, and I also want to live. Since you don't have the ability to escape, you are destined to die here. But I don't want to just wait for death. In my eyes, since you can only wait for death, you are already a dead man. The Devil Dao's people are all vicious." The expert was furious. "You're wrong. This is not vicious. This is just the law of the jungle. Without strength, if the heavens want me to die, then I can only die. But if the heavens want me to die, then I can only die. But if the heavens want me to die, then how can I just wait to die? If the heavens want me to die, then I'll just break it. Ignorant fool. I've never seen anyone who can survive this seal. Stop and think of a way. With my strength, I can cooperate with you and increase the chances of survival. You think I'm an idiot? Sorry, I want to live, and I must live. As for your life and death, it has long been decided." Su Fong increased the speed of the yellow spring blood sea. The blood water surged even more fiercely, sweeping over the middle-aged cultivator whose body was mostly submerged. As it swept over, the cultivator's skin and head were corroded, turning him into an incomparably malevolent blood person. Even so, Su Fong didn't stop the yellow spring blood sea. If he couldn't use the yellow spring blood sea, then he wouldn't be able to get out alive. In addition, that cultivator was a living dead person. He wasn't stupid enough to let such a person hold him back. If he wanted to survive, then he had to constantly create a way out. While Su Fong was using all kinds of true body abilities to cultivate the yellow spring blood sea, the devouring ability had already swallowed that cultivator bit by bit, turning him into a pool of blood. That person was like an ice man that was gradually melting into a pool of blood. I didn't expect to use the yellow spring blood sea to directly devour a cultivator. The cultivator's body, blood, and true chi are all directly turned into nutrients for the yellow spring blood sea. Now I know why the yellow spring blood sea is the supreme divine ability of the yellow spring devil emperor. With such a crazy, heaven-defying technique, how many cultivators' nightmares are it? When he looked again, the middle-aged cultivator was only left with some flesh and bones. His heart was still beating, and half of his skull had been corroded by the yellow spring blood sea. However, during this process, the yellow spring blood sea also burned with illusory fire clouds and pure yang true fire. This was because Su Fong had devoured an expert alive. The powerful seals in the surroundings also seemed to be on the verge of being completely burned away. Let's see if your seals or my heartless sword spy is more powerful. After inadvertently using the yellow spring blood sea to directly devour a cultivator for the first time, the other abilities of the yellow spring blood sea gradually awakened. Su Fong began to form seals. After forming the seals, many black lotus blood threads were born in the pool of blood. This was the innate ability of his true body. Blood-red veins grew out and intertwined with each other, forming another Su Fong. Chapter 1086. When this Su Fong appeared, It felt like the netherworld blood sea had reached the peak of burning. As for the middle-aged cultivator, in the end, like a piece of blood-colored ice, he melted in the netherworld blood sea and was swallowed by it. Su Fong didn't care about him. The world was very realistic. If one had the ability, they could survive and live well. If one was weak, they could only be trampled by others. Look at the power of my Black Lotus true body, Licking his lips, Su Fong actually smiled with anticipation. In the body formed by the Black Lotus true body, he suddenly sat cross-legged and made a few seals with both hands. Suddenly, a strange scene appeared without warning. Around the Su Fong formed by the Black Lotus blood threads in the center, a large number of Black Lotus blood threads grew out of the blood water. And in a very short time, the Black Lotus blood threads began to transform into human bodies, becoming lifelike Su Fong. It was just that the whole body seemed to lack vitality. But this couldn't stop the Su Fong from activating the next heaven-defying magic treasure. Chi-Chi, it turned out that there were a total of 18 Su Fong formed by the Black Lotus blood threads. These 18 people lined up and then maintained their seals. After waiting for a while, a flying sword gushed out from beside the Su Fong. It was a heartless sword spy. The heartless flying swords were caught by the Su Fong. At this moment, the netherworld blood sea, which had been cultivating for many years, was finally able to use magic treasures under the efforts of the Su Fong. If the heavens suppress me, I will destroy the heavens. The Su Fong stared at the surrounding dark red seals with clanging eyes, and at the same time slashed the heartless flying swords at several dark red seals. Path high-grade flying swords struck the dark red seals one after another. Although they did not sever the seals with the first strike, the heartless flying swords had a large number of them, and they attacked in turns. The sharp swords carried a dazzling sword aura as they slashed at the seals one after another, causing them to tremble. Boom! The most important dark red seal was struck by the merciless flying swords no less than a dozen times, and was violently shattered. Finally, a seal was destroyed. Under the power of the overall seal above, as this seal was broken, a tear suddenly appeared. Rise! The 18 Su Fangs formed hand seals at the same time, and then turned into blood. Only one Su Fong's human face was left. It carried the yellow spring's steady state and flew up towards the crack of the seal. At this moment, Su Fong could no longer be described as human. When he used the yellow spring's blood sea, he had already left his human form. Like a blood-colored curtain, it instantly rolled up and floated into the sky. Swish, the netherworld sea of blood finally flew out of the crack that sealed the divine might, bringing with it flames of friction. At this moment, the underworld sea of blood began to transform into a human body. The blood disappeared bit by bit, and a body grew under Su Fong's face. The emotionless sword was also sucked into his palm. He had escaped. He looked at the dark red seals. He never thought that they would be so terrifying. If he didn't have a few true bodies and relied on his innate ability, he would really die here. Unfortunately, this seal could shackle young immortals, dermic powers, and true chi, but it couldn't shackle the innate ability of the true body. Innate abilities could often be activated without the use of true chi. This was why Su Fong was able to turn danger into safety this time. It was a miracle that even experts like the Elder couldn't do. Whoosh! Su Fong had just recovered his physical body and used his perfected ability to become a familiar human form. He immediately stretched his body. He didn't expect to hear the sound of wind breaking as it flew towards him at an astonishing speed. Could it be that the Huiyin Shinrikyo expert has really sensed the feather fan? Without hesitation, he controlled the feather fan and soared into the sky. Just as he flew away, a cold storm suddenly swept over from the cold and silent sky behind him. In this cold storm, 7 people suddenly appeared. The leader was the black-robed old man. He stared coldly in front of him. Suddenly, he waved his hand and shouted, "Since you can escape from the seal, then I can't let you go. Kill!" As he gave the order, the 6 black-robed cultivators around him sped up. In terms of speed, the 7 experts were faster than Su Fong. Although he had the feather fan, his realm was too low. He couldn't completely use the feather fan. The perfected stage swept behind him like an invisible wave, causing Su Fong to see the 7 experts constantly closing in on him. A solemn expression was carved on his face. In a while, these people will catch up to me. I can only fight. Escaping is not an option. At such a close distance, his mind was like an abacus, carefully calculating bit by bit. Chi! With a wave of his hand, he grabbed at the experts behind him. The sky was filled with poison runes about hundreds of feet wide, and they began to explode in the air. Master! Su Fong suddenly stopped. He threw out more poison runes around him, and they exploded together. After all, he was not afraid of poison. Rays of light also appeared around him. In the rays of light, the big goblin Tung Ba appeared first. Then, Mao Chang appeared with more than 20 experts. He didn't summon the 35 experts. Mao Chang and Tung Ba immediately killed their way to the surroundings. The remaining 18 people and Su Fong came to the center of the poison explosion. Merciless killing formation. The 18 experts exploded their divine power together and released their sword seals. As Su Fong spat out a sword light, merciless flying swords instantly gushed out from the merciless sword spies. The flying swords danced in the sky and were caught by the experts. They began to form seals again. They're here. All of this was completed in a few breaths. However, releasing the poison talisman twice? Its function was to stop the 7 experts, but the effect was not too obvious. Without giving Su Fong too much time, the black-robed old man led the 6 experts and flew into the second layer of the poison void. His gloomy gaze pressed down on Su Fong. It was the divine power of the 7 people that tore the surrounding poison apart. Kill! The 2 sides instantly clashed in midair. The 18 experts instantly unleashed sword intent that filled the sky. Moreover, the merciless sword spies in their hands were like sword spirits that came alive. They drilled into the surroundings of the 7 experts. Boom, boom, boom. Instantly, a large amount of sword chi blasted toward the 7 experts. The old man was not to be trifled with. The mystic immortals beside him also activated their flying swords when they saw the sword aura coming toward them. They released an extremely cold aura and clashed with the destructive sword aura in the air. At this moment, Su Fong flashed to the back alone. The great perfection stage made his eyes stare at the black-robed old man. This person was too threatening. His strength was truly terrifying. He was an elder-level expert. In addition, this person had the Dark World Lord behind him. Kill. He had to kill this person first before he could escape from the Dark World Lord's mysterious power that had taken root in the Nether-Earth ruins. A huge impact came from the depths of the sword formation. It turned out that the black-robed old man stepped on a supreme aura and shattered the layers of sword aura. He domineeringly passed by the cultivators and wanted to kill Su Fong. Do you think I'm a pushover? Unexpectedly, Su Fong did not escape. Instead, his arms shook. Then, his hands began to buzz and sizzle as they burned, turning into fiery cloud palms. Fiery cloud wings also appeared on his back. Even his feet were burning with fiery clouds. The black-robed old man was about to crush him. Your mask is not bad. I remember, in the past, there was a demonic expert on the demonic mountain who had such a mask. He seemed to be called Ghostface Rakshasa. So he's a disciple of the demonic mountain. I am a disciple of the demonic mountain. You dare to offend the demonic mountain? Ridiculous, really ridiculous. The world is so big. Although the demonic mountain is a great force in the great world, it's not comparable to the Dark World Lord. The demonic mountain is just an ant. Tung Ba Mao Chang. After fighting for a while, the black-robed old man had already killed his way to 100 feet in front of him. His divine aura also crushed over, shaking Su Fong to the point that he could only retreat. His aura was shattering, and even the burning fiery clouds were about to disappear. Whoosh! Just as Su Fong was about to be engulfed, unexpectedly, a big goblin's shadow jumped out from the left side without any hesitation. It directly smashed a blazing hammer toward the black-robed old man. Ding, ding, the black-robed old man did not expect that there would be a helper. His speed, aura, and divine aura were all shaken back. Then, before he could react, a figure suddenly stabbed over from the other side. An astonishing sword ray that was 100 feet long slashed at the black-robed old man's aura field. It completely shattered his aura field, and his physical body was shaken to the point that it seemed like blood was coming out. Su Fong shouted with the aura of a supreme emperor, "Don't give him any chance to breathe." Whoosh, whoosh, the two experts immediately surrounded the black-robed old man and launched a fierce attack. Z, using the fiery cloud wings, he quickly flew past the big goblin Tung Ba. When he saw that the powerful black-robed old man was about to struggle out, he clapped his left hand and pressed his right hand down. At the same time, two rays of light appeared. In the light, two living giants appeared. It was the two demon soldiers that he had obtained from the Baishan ancient devil. The moment the demon soldiers appeared, they did not hold back. They soared into the air and brandished their large blades. They were both high-grade Dao artifacts and directly slashed at the black-robed old man's flying sword. Puff! Such a sudden attack caused the old man's flying sword to lose its luster. He could not help but spit out a mouthful of blood. Tung Ba and Mao Chong were both powerful experts. Although they were not as strong as the elders, they were still true experts. They knew that this was a rare opportunity. They each activated their magic treasure and trapped the black-robed old man. Adding the two puppet demon soldiers, Su Fong already had the means to deal with peerless experts. However, it would not be easy to kill the black-robed old man. Fortunately, on the other side, the 18 experts activated the emotionless sword formation and killed the 6 black-robed cultivators. The emotionless sword formation was indeed invincible. Su Fongdao was overjoyed and released his divine might. The 18 experts also rushed over in time and surrounded the black-robed old man. They activated the sword formation, and one flying sword after another emitted sword force. In an instant, the sky was filled with sword intent. In an instant, the black-robed old man, Tung Ba, Mao Chong, and the two demon soldiers were enveloped within. This time, the old man was no longer a threat. This black-robed old man was truly incomparably powerful. He also released a burning black fiendish flame. When it burned, it turned into a magma state. What an astonishing fire attribute sacred art. This should be a peerless sacred art from Huayin Shinrikyo. Even Su Fong felt that the flame was too domineering. Was it still flames? It was clearly a volcanic eruption. With the black-robed old man as the center, an astonishing amount of magma and burning flames shot out. It was like a big explosion, instantly blowing the surrounding sword formation into pieces. Even the emotionless flying sword was shaken away. It was truly domineering. This was a powerful cultivator who truly cultivated fire attribute sacred art. But so what? The emotionless sword spy was an ancient magic treasure, and there were 18 powerful experts using it. Even if the sword force was shattered, the sword formation would be formed in the blink of an eye. As a result, the old man did not have a chance to catch his breath. The sword formation once again entangled him. Even though he was shaken away by the magma flames time and time again, he was still suppressed to the point that the old man was constantly in a passive state. Chi, the stalemate lasted for half an incense stick of time. Who would have thought that at this moment, a victor would finally be decided? A emotionless flying sword finally broke through the flame field released by the black-robed old man. Under the combined attacks of the other sword forces, as well as Mao Chong, Tung Ba, and the two demon soldiers, this flying sword had a chance to slash the black-robed old man's neck. It was just one sword strike. Blood splattered everywhere, and a head suddenly flew up. Chapter 1087. The head was like a meatball. After landing on the ground, it bounced up and down. Blood gushed out of the headless body. The eyes of the head and the expression of the face could not be seen. At least, it was certain that this black-clothed old man would never have thought that he would die in the hands of such a weakling. Swish! Swish! The two puppet demon soldiers flashed to Su Fang's sides and entered his palms. Tung Ba and Mao Chong took a few steps to the headless body. Looking at the corpse lying on the ground, Tung Ba licked his lips. We finally killed this person. The 18 experts also brought their flying swords and entered the Xianguang after Su Fang used the Xianguang. It was not easy to kill such an expert this time. Su Fang ordered Tung Ba to bring the corpse over first. Tung Ba grabbed the corpse with his left hand and lifted it up. Then, he carried the meteor hammer on his other shoulder. However, the other Mao Chong was about to bring the head back. Unexpectedly, when he took a step forward, his eyes trembled deeply. He felt that he was shackled by some force, or that there was an invisible and terrifying force around him that was suppressing this space. Tung Ba did not find anything wrong. Su Fang, who was overseeing the situation, immediately noticed that something was wrong with Mao Chong, with his cultivation level. How could such an expert suddenly have such an expression? He instantly looked in the direction of Mao Chong's frozen gaze. When he saw the head lying in the rubble, he discovered that the eyeballs of the head were actually bleeding. Moreover, the muscles on the black-clothed old man's face were twitching bit by bit. It was as if he was not dead and still had vitality. In particular, when Su Fang focused his mind and looked at the old man's eyes, a strange gray and distorted light flashed from the old man's eyes. The distorted light was extremely hollow. It was like an endless abyss that wanted to suck Su Fang into it in an instant and shackle him forever. Buzz! In the divine aperture, the young immortal also began to tremble uneasily. Fortunately, the distorted light turned into an endless gray divine power that surged over like an ocean. With just a glance, the eyes of the old man's head released a supreme, young, immortal divine power that wanted to kill Mao Chong and Su Fang's young immortal and destroy the divine aperture ocean. Demonic blood plate. At this moment, his heart was hanging in the air and was about to spit it out from his throat. Fortunately, Su Fang's primordial spirit was extremely powerful after cultivating the heavenly devil disintegration seal. More importantly, there was a peerless magical treasure in the depths of his divine aperture. Demonic blood plate. This was a heaven-defying Tao artifact that had surpassed the high grade and reached the supreme grade. Most importantly, after merging with the Su Fang, it circled around the depths of the sea of primordial spirit, overseeing it, forever connected to the primordial spirit. The young immortal and the primordial spirit ocean were covered by the gray distorted light at this moment, and the young immortal Su Fang trembled uneasily, causing the heavenly devil blood plate to suddenly burn. An endless divine might exploded, covering the entire primordial spirit ocean. This feeling, Su Fang felt as if he was facing a mountain torrent. The mountain torrent was the divine power of the old man's head exploding. It engulfed him in an instant, and just as he was about to be consigned to eternal damnation, there was another force from the mountain torrent that pushed him to shatter everything. His body became freer and lighter. This reverse force came from the supreme primordial spirit of the heavenly devil blood plate. Whoosh! Su Fang was like a fallen giant. He instantly stood up, causing the strange divine might that surged from the old man's head to shatter. He finally returned to normal. Then, he immediately activated the heavenly devil blood plate and hurriedly swept it towards Mao Chong, who was dumbstruck. The space in front of him set off a shattered primordial spirit aura. Then, his body was shaken until he took a few steps back and spat out blood. He ignored his injuries and looked at Su Fang in extreme fear. Master, that old man isn't dead. He's still alive. It's not that he's not dead. Su Fang was also frightened previously, but now that he had regained his composure and released his perfected ability, he could sense that the head no longer had any life force. However, it was so strange that the head was still trembling slightly after losing its life force, especially when its eyeballs surged with indescribable divine might. There was something strange. Su Fang prepared to use his methods to imprison or crush the head. Just as he took a step forward, what was even more unexpected was that with a whoosh, the head suddenly jumped up from the front and flew towards Tung Ba. Be careful! Su Fangda was so shocked that he shouted. Tung Ba instantly turned around, but he kept retreating on the spot. He was so scared that a big goblin was trembling. This was because the black-robed old man's head happened to be pouncing towards him. How could not be scared to death? However, the head flew over Tung Ba's shoulder at lightning speed. With a swoosh, Tung Ba, who was so scared that he couldn't move, suddenly jumped up with the corpse in his left hand. Mao Chong was dumbfounded. It's alive. It turned out that after Tung Ba struggled out of the headless body and jumped into the air, the head and the body actually stuck together. However, one could see an obvious bloodstain. Tung Ba, Su Fang had to show the supreme boldness of a realm lord at this moment. He shouted first before Tung Ba recovered his reaction. He carried the meteor hammer and flashed to Su Fang's side. Then, he retreated together with Mao Chong and Tung Ba. The black-robed old man in Huyin Shinrikyo is already dead. There's no sign of life, but there seems to be a force controlling this person, turning him into a lifeless corpse that can still move. It's very likely that it's his essence soul. He subconsciously protected Tung Ba and Mao Chong. Although they were subordinates, Su Fang subconsciously wanted them to live well. His perfected ability had always been in a state of release. When he saw the corpse whose head and body hadn't completely stuck together, he suddenly felt that this scene was very familiar. It could be said that it was very familiar. Master! Suddenly, a surprised voice came from the Pig Ma King, Zhu Huang. This seems to be very similar to the night spirit sect you encountered in the small world back then. They can't be killed. Even if they're killed, they can't kill the other party's essence soul. Yes. He finally remembered. It was the night spirit sect, he encountered in the lower realm several times. He clearly remembered what happened back then. He had interacted with the night spirit sect time and time again, and the night spirit sect leader claimed that he had the power of immortality. This scene was very similar to back then. It was as if he had returned to the scene of fighting with the night spirit sect back then. Unexpectedly, the corpse suddenly spoke with a faint, trembling voice. You dare to kill one of my pawns. I will let you know the feeling of living a life worse than death. Could it be the Lord of the Dark Realm? Mao Chong trembled again. Lord of the Dark Realm? Because the voice and tone of the corpse were not the black-robed old man who was alive before. In addition, the corpse was alive again. It was clearly the old man's head that was cut off. A normal person couldn't still be alive. There was only one possibility. The person who spoke was not the black-robed old man. Such a strong and terrifying person could only be the legendary Lord of the Dark Realm. The corpse spoke again. I will slowly torture you. Something's wrong. While the corpse was speaking, Su Fang, who was also in a state of shock, said, It's impossible to have such an ability. The great world is full of immortals. Immortals can't have such an ability. Even if they do, it's impossible for them to recover in such a short time. Even if it's a cultivator with a perfect physical body, it would take at least a few years to reattach their head. Moreover, this corpse doesn't have the slightest warmth. It's not alive. Su Fang also felt the same and hurriedly asked, How do you know the origin of this monster? I once met a faction called the Night Spirit Sect in a small world. They capture cultivators everywhere and take their hearts. Many cultivators can survive without hearts. He couldn't help but think of Xiao Mei'er. Luo said, This world is very big. Even those existences that surpass immortals can't have such divine abilities. This can't be a puppet either. Puppets need true chi and imprints to activate, but this corpse doesn't have the slightest energy fluctuation. It's definitely not a divine ability. Master, Mao Chong suddenly interrupted. When Su Fang looked forward, the corpse's eyes surged with a shocking gray light. At this moment, he could only ask for Luo's help. He didn't want him to take action, but he wanted to see what secrets there were in the corpse. In fact, there was no need for Su Fang to say anything. Luo began to secretly spy on everything. In less than 2 breaths, Luo said in a cold tone, There is a special essence soul imprint in this corpse's head. You can shatter that essence soul imprint. There is a supreme expert who planted his essence soul in a cultivator's young immortal. He can control the cultivator's yang, immortal, and will at will. Am I his match? You are not his match, but you have the heavenly devil blood plate. Su Fang suddenly looked at Tung Ba and Mao Chong. At this moment, a pair of fire cloud wings suddenly appeared on his back, drawing a shocking aura in midair. He then stepped on the fire cloud steps, and a fire cloud followed him to take the initiative to attack the corpse. Tung Ba and Mao Chong were half a beat slower, but they also went up from the left and right. You blaspheme me. You don't know the immensity of heaven and earth. What is this divine ability of yours? The corpse suddenly spewed out a large amount of magma flames. This was the peerless fire-type divine power that the black-robed old man had used when he was alive from Huyen Shinrikyo. With a rumble, Su Fang, Mao Chong, and Tung Ba were all blown away. An essence soul imprint can actually activate the corpse's true chi and dharma powers, allowing the corpse to use divine abilities. The corpse used divine abilities. That was what was happening. This was impossible. The corpse had no life. Without life, there was no consciousness. Without consciousness, there was no way to control dharma powers and true chi. Divine abilities came from dharma powers and true chi. Therefore, Su Fang was so frightened that he was almost unable to make a move. Fortunately, Tung Ba and Mao Chong, one in front and one behind, charged towards the magma flames that were constantly spewing out at Su Fang's speed. I finally remember. Luo also gave Su Fang a shocking voice that he had never heard before. Shocking. Was this possible for an expert like Luo? He had seen everything. His lifespan was unimaginable. His physical body and essence soul were sealed separately, yet he could still live until now. The power of immortality. Luo, this was the power of immortality. Su Fang became spirited. He was not in a hurry. If he could kill the old man once, he could do it a second time. But the main point was to understand his background. He immediately asked, Luo, I'm sure this Dark World Lord is similar to the Night Spirit Cult's Night Spirit Cult leader I met in the lower realm. Back then, I killed a powerful enemy, but the corpse could still revive. Even if I killed the corpse, the Yuan spirit could still survive. Furthermore, it could teleport and possess other life forms. Because, after Luo heard this, he was silent for a while. Most likely, this is the legendary Night Demon. Is it a race or a force? Night Demon. What kind of existence was that? With such a terrifying ability. Luo was even a little nervous. It's not a force, it's a race. This race is called Night Demon, but they appeared in the Great World in the ancient era. That era was very ancient. I heard from my elders that when Night Demon suddenly rose, they kept controlling humans, taking over their bodies and constantly expanding their power, wanting to build a powerful Night Demon world. Fortunately, at that time, the righteous path joined forces to suppress them, and that Night Demon disappeared completely. In short, I don't know much about Night Demon. I only heard from my elders. Chapter 1088. Night Demon, even Luo, was nervous. At this moment, Su Fang's heart felt like it was sealed in ice and trembling. Inside the blood jade, Luo seemed even more out of place. His long eyes were also filled with disbelief. I'm not too sure about the appearance of the Night Demon and the entire process. I didn't experience that era, but the elders of my clan did. The powerful emperors of the human race also experienced it. Unfortunately, too much time has passed, and this period of time has been slowly sealed away. No one knows about the existence of the Night Demon anymore. Su Fang was even more curious. If this Night Demon you're talking about is the Night Spirit sect I met in the lower realm, then they should have something in common. Currently, I found that the Night Demon is collecting human hearts. Their ability seems to be to control any human, especially the primordial spirit. So, the Night Spirit sect you met is the Night Demon I'm talking about? According to some memories passed down from my clan's ancient books, the Night Demon's greatest ability is to possess young immortals and control their primordial spirit. They are originally a kind of incorporeal life form and shouldn't be considered a life form. Instead, they're a kind of consciousness life form. Without cultivating, their primordial spirit is 100 times, 10,000 times stronger than any other life form. They can instantly possess a cultivator's primordial spirit and then become the cultivator's host, controlling the cultivator's physical body. In that case, the night demon is an invincible existence. It can easily possess other people's primordial spirits and enter their primordial spirit world. It can casually possess other people as its host. The night demon can control a cultivator's primordial spirit. After devouring the primordial spirit, it can occupy the cultivator's physical body and slowly nibble away at the cultivator's heart, because the heart is the source of all life. Although the night demon is a kind of primordial spirit life form and is incorporeal, it also needs the life essence of this world as the source of its existence. If night demons exist in large numbers, how can cultivators resist them? The main point is that night demons are very difficult to deal with. They stay in the host's body, just like the beheaded black-robed cultivator in front. Even if you destroy the cultivator's physical body, which is the host, the night demons will escape. They might even take over the bodies of your two subordinates. They can easily take over a cultivator as a host. Fortunately, the one controlling the corpse is not a night demon, but a mark released by the night demon. The mark is not that terrifying. Kill the corpse, or you will be in danger when the true body of the night demon comes. Lord of the Dark Realm. As he blew, all the hairs on his body were trembling. In an instant, he released the merciless sword spy. He also sent a telepathic message to Mao Chong and Tung Ba to entangle him and try his best to unleash more powerful attacks. As for the two devil puppet soldiers, they also charged out, mainly to prevent the corpse from escaping. If he could kill a corpse once, he could do it a second time. And, this time, it should be much easier. The black-robed old man had already lost his life. He only needed to deal with the night demon mark that controlled the corpse's head. And, controlling the power of the sword spy, his speed had reached its limit. The sword spy's power shattered the lava waves again and again, especially with Mao Chong and Tung Ba attacking from both sides of the corpse. If the corpse wanted to attack Su Fong, it would naturally not give him much pressure. To deal with the primordial spirit. Naturally, there had to be a way to deal with the primordial spirit. After shattering a large amount of lava and flames, 18 experts appeared around Su Fong. They grabbed the heartless flying sword, and in a flash the 18 of them appeared around the corpse. Then they all took out the sword seals in their hands, and a peerless heartless sword formation enveloped the sky. This time, the heartless sword formation set up by the 2 experts and the 18 experts firmly shackled the corpse within. He wanted to continue attacking. Unexpectedly, the black-robed man's corpse suddenly lost control. The headless body was separated from the head, and the head instantly shattered, turning into minced meat. And a black imprint, which looked like a rune, actually escaped towards the sword formation like a falling star. Luo shouted, "We can't let it escape. I reckon that this imprint should be controlled by the Dark Realm Lord." Su Fong leaped up, burning a fire cloud, floating and emitting a blazing light. Suddenly, he grabbed at the air with his right hand. "It's too late to run. I've already thought of a way to deal with you. Go, demonic blood plate." The black imprint rune had already pierced through the heartless sword formation. Mao Chong and Tong Ba used the power of their magic treasures to attack, but the black imprint seemed to be illusory, the kind that did not exist. It passed through the sword formation in an instant, feeling that it was disdainful of material power. This was because the black imprint rune was a material existence. It was an existence of the primordial spirit. It cannot be dealt with by material power alone. At most, it could only affect the aura. At this moment, just as the black imprint rose into the air and left the heartless sword formation, a blood-black demonic shadow suddenly entrenched itself above it, projecting a shocking demonic light. Demonic disintegration seal. Let me show you my primordial spirit cultivation. Su Fong, who had transformed into a fire cloud state, seemed to have the fire cloud, the arch physique. No, this fire cloud state only displayed the divine power of breathing. Currently, his hands only had the shocking divine power of fire clouds. However, even in this state, he had become a peerless fire elemental divine power expert. The blood-black demonic light that blocked the black imprint was the demonic blood plate. It was releasing a shocking demonic light that also blocked the black imprint rune. Moreover, Su Fong chased after him, but he kept his palms together. Suddenly, his eyes widened. A large number of finger-sized illusory Su Fong pounced on the shocking black imprint rune that was shackled by the demonic blood plate. It was so shocking. Su Fong was currently using all his strength to activate the demonic disintegration seal and releasing his primordial spirit. After his primordial spirit left his body, it formed a shocking young immortal. After being stripped by the demonic disintegration seal, the young immortal turned into tens of millions of shocking young immortals that attacked the inside of the light. Under the demonic blood plate, in the demonic light space, a supreme primordial spirit was formed to fight against the world. It was not material, nor was it a confrontation of material power or divine power. It was just an illusory young immortal. Where are you running to? In the demonic light world, the black imprint rune that was shackled by the demonic light was in the void. Surrounding it was a dense army of Su Fong young immortals. Tens of thousands of young immortals raised their arms and shouted together. This scene was too shocking. It was unbelievable that a heaven immortal could have such a young, immortal divine power. Pa pa pa! Tens of thousands of young immortals took advantage of the demonic blood plate's power to shackle the black imprint rune and struck out with their palms, grabbing the area around the black imprint rune. The primordial spirit power released by the black imprint rune was first shackled by the demonic blood plate, and the remaining power was immediately shattered by the tens of thousands of young immortals. Tens of thousands of Su Fong attacked together. What a shocking primordial spirit power. No matter how extraordinary the black imprint rune was, no matter how refined it was by the Lord of Dark Realm, it could not withstand the attacks of the demonic blood plate and Su Fong. Any divine power that was released was shattered. The attacks lasted for less than 10 breaths. The last time it shattered, it appeared around the black imprint rune. Then, the black imprint rune's divine power was less than 1% of before, and it looked like it was about to collapse. Not to mention the tens of thousands of Su Fong young immortals. Even the demonic blood plate's divine power seemed to be able to shatter it. The tens of thousands of young immortals wanted to attack again, but at the last moment, when the black imprint was about to shatter, Su Fong's main body suddenly said, "Luo, can I not destroy it? Since this imprint came from the Lord of Dark Realm, which is Night Demon, I might be able to find a way to deal with it through this imprint. Also, I have a friend in the small world whose heart was stolen by Night Demon. I have to think of a way to deal with this problem." "You can try, I didn't think of that," Luo replied plainly. Clearly, he had never truly fought with Night Demon, and needed to rely on Su Fong to figure it out himself. Since that was the case, the tens of thousands of young immortals immediately cooperated with the demonic blood plate. Luo's main body controlled the demonic blood plate to release more divine power. The tens of thousands of young immortals began to form seals together. Countless primordial spirit sealing hand seals wrapped around the black imprint rune. So, 5 minutes later, when the tens of thousands of young immortals flew away from the demonic light, the black imprint rune was like a shining stone, suddenly absorbing the surrounding light, and immediately returned to its quiet state. Chi! A large hand suddenly grabbed from outside the demonic light. It turned out that Su Fong's main body had recalled the countless young immortals and arrived outside the demonic blood plate, grabbing the black imprint rune inside with one hand. It's better to be careful. Su Fong's mind moved. He must not bring any danger to himself. If not, he would be inviting trouble. With Night Demon's terrifying power, who knew what other abilities the black imprint rune in his hand could have? He was not the immortal who had just arrived in the great world. He had to have a backup plan for everything, and he had to be ruthless. He had to be decisive. He first absorbed the demonic blood plate into his body, then released a young immortal to control the black imprint in his hand to enter his body. When the demonic blood plate had just returned to the primordial spirit sea in his divine aperture, Su Fang's young immortal suppressed the black imprint and also came into the divine aperture world and flew into the artifact space inside the demonic blood plate. In the space inside the demonic blood plate, there was still the familiar cold and evil blood-colored demonic chi. It was this kind of power, together with the terrifying primordial spirit divine power shackles. This was a world where no young immortal could act wantonly. At this moment, a blood-colored array formation began to form around Su Fang, who had entered. Su Fang was controlling a portion of the demonic blood plate's power, using the demonic blood plate to condense the array formation, using its special power to create a space to protect Su Fang, or to suppress the black imprint rune in Su Fang's hand. He was so careful because the black imprint came from Night Demon. Just as Su Fang killed the black-robed old man and suppressed the black imprint rune. This was in the depths of the Nether Earth ruins, in the depths of the Outer Realm. In the depths of the black cold aura, this place seemed to be a dark void. Below the void was an ancient valley, and in the center of this valley, there was a special building that was a heavenly altar or a Dharma altar. The building was shaped like a heart. Near this heart-shaped heavenly altar, there were thousands of black-robed men guarding it. And inside the heart-shaped heavenly altar, there were more than 10,000 cultivators sitting cross-legged. They were motionless, and it felt like they were not breathing. A faint blood-colored smoke surged out from their chests, gathering towards the center of the heavenly altar. A blood-colored smoke surged out of a cultivator's body. Then, more than 10,000 blood-colored smoke surged out of the 10,000 cultivators sitting cross-legged. So many wisps of smoke slowly escaped towards the depths of the heart-shaped heavenly altar. When he looked again, there was a dark red strange stone that was more than 100 feet wide in the depths of the heavenly altar. The strange stone was circular, and in the center there was a black light that was as tall as a human floating. It released a faint light that looked like a lamp that was about to be extinguished. There was an illusory figure floating in the middle of the dim light. The ethereal figure's appearance could not be seen clearly, but released bits of light. Master! A moment after the light was released, a middle-aged cultivator flew over from the 1,000-odd cultivators outside the heart-shaped heavenly altar. Chapter 1089. As soon as the middle-aged cultivator arrived, he knelt down towards the black figure in the dim light and prostrated himself. The black figure said in a cold and embarrassed voice, "This is an imprint that I refined. It was killed along with one of your experts and fell into someone else's hands. This person is quite powerful. He was able to use an essence soul-type Dharma treasure to seal my imprint. When I sensed it, I could no longer sense its location." The middle-aged cultivator kowtowed. "I know that there are experts from 3 forces who went out to capture cultivators from Master to cultivate. As long as there is a problem with one side, I will immediately rush over. Then rush over and kill the other party. It's better to capture them alive. If you can capture them alive, I will make you immortal and live well. Once my divine ability is completed and I recover my former strength, I will kill my way into the human world. All of you will be immortal masters who control a great world. I will act now." After receiving the mysterious figure's affirmation, the middle-aged cultivator immediately became spirited. He got up and flew away from the strange black stone. The middle-aged man arrived outside the heart-shaped heavenly altar. He happened to encounter a dozen cultivators returning. 3 of them were covered in injuries and were so scared that their souls almost left their bodies. "Bring them in and seal them. Let them sit there obediently for Master to cultivate. The rest of you, come with me to capture them." The middle-aged man shouted at the others. He immediately brought the dozen experts and flew away from this strange place under the cold and dark void. Outside the Nether Earth ruins, Mao Chong and Tung Ba were guarding the motionless Su Fang floating in the void. Of course, the 2 experts were also controlling the headless body of the black-robed old man. Inside Su Fang's body, in the dermic power world deep inside the divine aperture, the heavenly devil blood plate was floating quietly. In this dermic treasure world, Su Fang's young immortal was controlling the black imprint to float in the array formed by the dermic treasure, until the array completely quieted down. Young immortal Su Fang heaved a sigh of relief and looked at the array formation in all directions. Night Spirit Sex Night Demon's greatest ability is its essence soul. Without an essence soul Dharma treasure or a peerless technique, it is impossible to be Night Demon's match. In other words, I have countless Dharma treasures, but only the heavenly devil blood plate and the primordial chaos sacred realm can suppress this Night Demon imprint. Taking a closer look, the black rune talisman in his hand also became obedient. How could it not be obedient after being shackled so many times? This was the first time he had seen the true face of the black rune. Although the talisman was completely black, it had a special jet black luster to it. Furthermore, it wasn't formed by divine abilities, true energy, or sealing marks. It was actually a material object. It was a kind of talisman that existed in substance. It was not the kind of talisman that was created by drawing talismans with genuine chi. When he released the slight young immortal's divine aura to cover the black rune talisman, he did not expect that there was no movement inside the rune talisman. In the end, the rune talisman itself released a natural primordial spirit divine aura, as if it wanted to fight against Su Fang's primordial spirit. Strange runes. It should be the material of the rune talisman itself. In other words, the material used to refine the rune talisman was strange. He could not figure it out, but he also understood that the power inside the rune talisman had not been activated, but the material outside the rune talisman already had an astonishing primordial spirit divine aura. Thinking of this, he used the demonic blood plate and let his main body release its divine aura. Soon, Law's voice appeared around the young immortal. This rune talisman is made of a material that contains primordial spirit divine aura. Su Fang understood. It seems that it is one of the treasures of heaven and earth recorded in the ancient books. Some treasures of heaven and earth have some special abilities, such as fire-type gems and spiritual items. The material of this black rune talisman is a treasure that contains primordial spirit divine aura. The main ability of a night demon is the primordial spirit. They naturally have this ability. Be careful. Things related to the night demon are not easy to deal with. And he chatted with Law for a while. Su Fang began to stare at the rune talisman with even more confidence. Turning it over and over, he saw that the rune talisman was very simple. It did not have the large number of Tao runes of the treasures of the human world, nor those markings. It was just a piece of ordinary black material. Other than the strange primordial spirit, there was nothing else wrong with it. At this moment, he was going to take the risk and enter the black rune talisman. He wanted to see what secrets the night demon had left behind. Fortunately, this was his young immortal. Even if there was danger, it would not affect Su Fang's main body much. This was the extraordinariness of a powerful young immortal. The young immortal began to pour into the black rune talisman. He did not expect that just as he suppressed the rune talisman, an even more astonishing divine aura surged out from it. Moreover, a devouring primordial spirit vortex appeared around the black rune talisman. The closer the young immortal was, the more he would be devoured by this young immortal vortex. Using the demonic blood plate's divine aura, coupled with the array formation, the black vortex that surged out of the rune talisman began to collapse. It turned the sky upside down. Only then did he control the young immortal and enter the black rune talisman along with the disappearing primordial spirit aura. At this moment, his young immortal touched the black rune talisman for the first time. The material of the rune talisman was actually not dangerous. Instead, when the young immortal touched it, it gave Su Fang's young immortal a sense of security. The rune talisman itself is a treasure that contains divine aura. If no one is controlling it, it will naturally bring benefits to the young immortal. Law said from the depths. Su Fang poured all of his young immortal's power into the black rune talisman. Under the pressure of the rune talisman's divine aura, Su Fong immediately entered a cold rune talisman space. The space was not big. As soon as he stepped in, he saw that there was a ceiling array formation in the center. Inside the ceiling array formation, there was a shocking black shadow that was releasing its primordial spirit. The black shadow was in human form. It felt like it controlled all the arrays and the rune talisman. Su Fong carefully approached. "It's this thing." Law said, "I think it's the demonic blood plate's divine aura that isolated it from the outside world. Therefore, the will in the rune talisman is unable to communicate with the Lord of the Dark World. You don't have to worry now. As long as the Lord of the Dark World is unable to control the rune talisman in the outside world, it can only be obedient." Su Fong snorted. He was really not worried about this problem. Then, he approached the central array formation. This was the first time he was so close to the legendary night demon. Back then, when he dealt with the night spirit sect in the small world, he knew nothing about it. He slowly came in front of the array formation. This seal was formed by the interweaving of primordial spirit imprints. Although it was powerful, it was nothing. Su Fong stared at the black-clothed shadow inside. This was a human figure. No, it was not a human figure. It looked like a human figure, but it was actually just a ball of black light. The light was not dazzling. It was deep and dark, suitable for a world without light. This is the night demon, the Lord of the Dark World. Su Fong was in disbelief. He could not feel how terrifying the night demon was. After a while, Law said, "It's not really a night demon. It's just a consciousness planted here by the night demon, using a little of its own power to devour the primordial spirit of others. But don't underestimate this consciousness. Even the elders are not a match for this consciousness. But compared to the night demon's true body, this is really insignificant. I also feel threatened. If the rune talisman itself was not shackled by the demonic blood plate, this consciousness from the night demon would be enough to devour me. You said that you have the demonic blood plate, so this consciousness of the night demon can't threaten you. Law, I can't destroy it. It's a breakthrough to deal with the night demon. Moreover, I have friends who are controlled by the night demon. What do you think I should do with this thing? I understand your thoughts. You want to keep it by your side, but this strange thing is like carrying a bomb with you. It can explode at any time. You can't bear to destroy it. Indeed, you can't easily shatter it. Then what should I do? Unless you turn an outsider's thing into your own, then you don't have to be afraid of it." Following that, Law's unintentional words caused Su Fong's scalp to go numb. No way, what a joke. This was the night demon's thing. It was best not to keep it. Shatter it. However, when he thought of Xiao Mei and the night spirit sect in the lower realms that he could not shatter, he could only take it for himself. However, could he control such an evil thing? Thinking about possessing such a thing, his heart was in turmoil. After hesitating for 3 breaths, Su Fong nodded decisively. "Law, I've thought it through. I'll think of a way to fuse with it and take it for myself." Law smiled faintly. "I'm just saying, since you've made such a choice, you can only face it yourself. No one knows what will happen in the future. With the demonic blood plate, even if I can't fuse with it, there won't be any danger." He immediately began to take action. He let his main body separate more young immortals and come to the demonic blood plate to control this magic treasure. He released a large amount of divine might to control the rune talisman from the outside. At this moment, a drop of blood essence, under the divine might released by the young immortals, flew from the outside of the rune talisman under the protection of the primordial spirit into the space of the rune talisman. This was a drop of blood from his main body. At this moment, he had blood and primordial spirit. He only lacked one power, the power of the world of yin and yang. Sure enough, a surge of world power that contained the boundless world also surged in. Now that he had true chi, blood, and primordial spirit, the 3 of them surged into the array formation where the primordial spirit imprints were intertwined. He first wanted to domineeringly possess the void consciousness in the array formation. In other words, he wanted to possess night demon's consciousness. Chi. As soon as the 3 powers entered the primordial spirit imprint array formation, Night Demon's consciousness unexpectedly felt an infinite threat. It turned into a black wave of primordial spirit and attacked Su Fong. Oof. Su Fong's young immortal sneered. Immediately, the black wave of Night Demon's consciousness was suppressed by the surrounding divine might. Sizzle. This divine might came from Su Fong's main body, and also from the demonic blood plate. So what was a consciousness? However, only when Su Fong faced Night Demon's consciousness at such a close distance did he truly understand how terrifying Night Demon was. Such a consciousness was insignificant, but in front of him, it was as terrifying as the ocean devouring the river. He was a river. How could he fight against the ocean? However, his river was protected by heaven and earth. The divine might from his main body and the demonic blood plate immediately suppressed Night Demon's consciousness until it trembled. Even if it was not obedient, it could not release much divine might. Su Fong also took the opportunity to use the three powers like the autumn wind sweeping fallen leaves, instantly entangling Night Demon's consciousness. Law suddenly smiled faintly and said, "Luck, this is luck. I didn't expect that the legendary Night Demon's consciousness would not only fall into your hands, but also fall into the demonic blood plate and meet a cultivator like you who has all kinds of abilities." Luck. Su Fong wrapped Night Demon's consciousness while he did not understand. It seems that you came to this Nether Earth ruins not as simple as a coincidence, but luck. It seems to be full of danger and there is no chance of survival. But in the end, you were able to obtain Night Demon's consciousness here. Law smiled mysteriously. Luck? He originally wanted to ask Law to be more specific. However, he would not say too much. Moreover, he had to refine Night Demon's consciousness first. Chapter 1090. Coupled with the mysterious nature of Qi, even Luo could not explain it clearly. Buzz, the illusory consciousness from Night Demon was being surrounded by Su Fong's young immortal. True Qi and blood were also being poured into it. The illusory consciousness of Night Demon kept resisting. Divine might kept coming out of its essence soul, try to stop Su Fong from fusing with it again and again. However, Su Fong was so strong. With three forces devouring it, how could this consciousness escape? Su Fong's young immortal, who was entangled with Night Demon, seemed to have sensed something and suddenly looked outside the array. Outside, the heavenly demon blood plate was the divine aperture ocean. Outside the divine aperture was Su Fong's body. At this moment, Su Fong's main body was releasing its perfected ability. Under this ability, his eyes were staring at the dark void where cold air was surging in front of him. Master. Mao Chong and Tung Ba had been guarding by his side. When they saw Su Fong's expression change slightly, they knew that something was wrong. Wooling Goblin. Consciousness spewed out. A gray stone light flashed from the side. It was Wooling Goblin, who had recovered from his injuries. This guy transformed into his main body. When he opened his mouth, he swallowed the three people floating in the air and the black-robed old man's headless body. With a whoosh, he drilled into the cold ground on the other side. No one knew where he went. 1 breath, 2 breaths, the 3rd breath. More than a dozen black-robed men came over with Dharma treasures and divine might. They were all experts. They flew not far away from here and floated for a moment 100 meters away. A few people left and a few people turned back. One of them was a middle-aged man. He was the middle-aged cultivator from the depths of the Nether Earth ruins. He brought a few people back 100 meters and used his divine might to scan the surroundings. Inch by inch, 10 feet by 10 feet, the cold ground and space. Not far away, in a barren mountain a mile away, Wooling Goblin's main body was entangled with a rock, hiding perfectly. Inside, Mao Chong exclaimed, "Too timely, master. If we were any slower, these dozen or so experts who are also from the Dark Realm Master subordinates would have captured us. Master has special hearing, but it's not the kind of magical power that cultivators have." Tung Ba, who had followed Su Fong for some time, snorted proudly in disdain. "We finally managed to escape into the Wooling Goblin's body in time. This is a friend who has followed me all the way to the Great World. In the future, he will go to even further and higher worlds. You two don't have to worry. He won't disappoint you." The domineering Su Fang's words made the two experts extremely excited. At this moment, Su Fang's great perfection ability began to lock onto the black-clothed experts several hundred meters ahead. His first impression was that the strongest among them was the middle-aged man. True enough, the man sensed for a while and then summoned the black-robed men. "This group of people died around here. We must find the culprit. Since he dared to offend the master in the Nether Earth ruins, capture him as soon as you see him. There's no need to look for them. I'm sure we'll find one of the cultivators in the Nether Earth ruins." Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. Several black-robed men immediately searched in all directions. There's really no way to escape. The Nether Earth ruins is in the depths of the Huang Zhe astral realm. It's impossible for too many cultivators to come here, or for those who are still alive. The experts under the Dark Realm's Lord will search the entire Nether Earth ruins. I still have a place to hide. You only have two choices now. One is to leave. The Nether Earth ruins is not a place where you can leave as you wish. At least, you still have to search for a while. Once you can't leave, there's only the second choice left. You can't just sit and wait for death. Then, you can only fight with the Dark Realm's Lord. Luo, what you said is very obvious. I'm just a heavenly immortal realm cultivator. How can I casually leave the Nether Earth ruins? There's only one way left, and that is to fight with the Dark Realm's Lord. It's like this. You have no other choice. You've harmed the interests of the Dark Realm's Lord in the Nether Earth ruins. How can he let you go? With his means, who knows how many cultivators he has suppressed as his puppets. He's constantly looking for you in the Nether Earth ruins. If you want to fight, you have to have the capital. Am I his opponent? You have a capital now. You now have 2 great devil puppets and 35 experts that you've gathered. With all kinds of treasures, you can fight against people like the elders. You can definitely fight against weak opponents and become stronger step by step. Isn't there spiritual chi here? You can even break through your realm. You're still the strongest. What kind of ability do you have? How can I not know? That butterfly demon is not here. She's probably been swept to another outer realm space. Otherwise, with her help, you'll have a better chance of dealing with the Dark Realm's Lord. All right, let's do it. If we want to fight, then let's fight. I was forced to do this. Luo actually wants me to fight the Dark Realm's Lord head-on. I originally wanted to go, but at this moment, he suddenly felt like a cleaned fat pig that was about to be dragged to the chopping board and slaughtered. I'll break through a realm first. From the 3rd Dao realm to the 4th Dao realm. I should have broken through long ago. With the black-robed old man's corpse, I'll constantly become stronger in the shortest time possible. Su Fang immediately knew what to do next. He ordered, "Wooling Goblin, leave this place. The farther the better." Swoosh! The stones suddenly peeled off some stone belts. The stone belts were the Wooling Goblin. It crawled along the cold ground and quickly crawled towards the depths. The Black Ridge Demon Monarch's speed was astonishing as he made rapid turns and crossed the mountains one after another. After more than 2 hours, they had already arrived at the depths of the Nether ruins. The Wooling Goblin found a hidden cave. The cave was in a barren mountain and could be used as a natural barrier. Go and hide in the dark. If there's any movement and you see the Dark Realm's troops, inform me secretly. He brought Mao Chong and Tung Ba out of the Wooling Goblin's body and let the Wooling Goblin hide in a mountain 1 kilometer away. Mao Chong and Tung Ba were not injured, so they naturally took on the responsibility of guarding and went to hide on both sides of the barren mountain. When they arrived at the cave, they used a formation to seal everything. Fortunately, I have the demonic blood plate to seal the imprint rune that belongs to the Dark Realm's Lord. In addition, I'm also constantly fusing with it. Those canine fangs under the Dark Realm's Lord won't be able to find me quickly. Fortunately, he still had the ability to create gaps in time to continuously grow stronger. I am willing to submit. Suddenly, coincidentally, the voice of the constellation of 9 heavens Elder Long Gu Immortal came from within his body. This made Su Fang unable to stop smiling. Just when he was lacking experts, he did not expect Long Gu Immortal to finally be suppressed. This was a supreme existence that surpassed Mao Chong and Tung Ba. Su Fang's thoughts were meticulous. Thinking that this was the most important time to hide his aura, he called out the void dust cauldron and entered the inner space. In the inner world, Longu Immortal's body was covered in demonic poison and fresh blood. In front of him was the Vermilion Emperor in his human form. He sat there, caressing the flying sword in his hand. Longu Immortal was an elder who was shackled by the formation. His body had been cut countless times by the Vermilion Emperor, and more than half of his blood had flowed out. Master, this brat has finally understood. When the Vermilion Emperor saw Su Fang pass through the formation, he was still sitting there complacently. He only nodded and sneered. I submit. Longu Immortal's body also went soft. An old man, an elder, had actually lost his self-respect and knelt in front of Su Fang. Buzz buzz. Without saying a word, he immediately formed hand seals and condensed a sealing plant. A sealing light quickly entered Longu Immortal's mind. Longu Immortal, you're also extremely powerful. Usually, other experts who were suppressed by me would quickly submit to me. But you took so long, as expected of an elder from the constellation of 9 heavens. Su Fang suddenly spoke, but his tone was a bit different than usual. But because of that, and because you're an elder, your strength is 100 times greater than mine. That's why I can't casually let you return to your freedom. If you try to betray me as soon as you leave, I'll need a bit more effort to kill you. That's why I won't give you any thoughts of betraying me. I really submit. I'm not disloyal. As soon as he said this, Longu Immortal, who had originally let out a sigh of relief, felt his heart skip a beat. He was so scared that his face turned pale. If you say you're not disloyal, then you're not disloyal. The Vermilion Emperor also sneered. Su Fang stood with his hands behind his back. Vermilion Emperor. Master, don't worry. Whoosh. The Vermilion Emperor watched Su Fang leave, then glanced at Longu Immortal in embarrassment. The other party was so scared that he could only look like a helpless chicken. After leaving the void dust cauldron transformation, he sat cross-legged and immediately urged all the true qi in his body to attack the yin-yang Dao wheel formed by the 20 yang meridians. He also took out a large number of pills and placed them into the cauldron transformation for the tens of thousands of big goblin to consume. He also took out dozens of ancient high-grade pills for the 35 experts to cultivate. While everyone was cultivating, soon, a familiar piercing sound of tribulation energy rushed out from Su Fang's body. His body shook, and then a crazy tribulation flame ignited. The tribulation flame turned into a sea of flames, and a large amount of impurities rushed out from Su Fang's body. A familiar stench came out, but under the tribulation flame, it also turned into dust. This was what a breakthrough had to go through. His physical body also welcomed the impact. He felt that his meridians, bones, and flesh were being forcefully torn apart. He wanted to make his physical body stronger, more perfect, and more profound. The heavenly hole above his golden core origin also turned into a twisted whirlpool. It kept spreading in the golden core, causing the entire golden core to be in a whirlpool state. When the impact disappeared a little, the whirlpool slowly turned into a heavenly hole, and the golden core origin also calmed down. When he looked again, the tribulation flame gradually faded. Su Fang's skin was like a baby's, with a tender white luster. His hair was especially translucent. At this time, he did not wear the ghost face Rakshasa. His face seemed to be 1 year younger, around the age of 18. He looked so young, but his eyes only had a boundless depth. My meridians have doubled in size, and my bones and flesh have become more profound. The changes in his physical body were obvious. The changes in his great perfection ability could also be seen. Now, Su Fang's great perfection ability could cover more than 10 miles, almost 20 miles. His blood transformation true body and Black Lotus true body had also transformed a lot. His left arm had fused with the dragon taming wood perfectly, and his right arm had fused with the purple aura Dharma spirit. He kept feeling that the purple aura Dharma spirit would cross his shoulder and start to extend and fuse with Su Fang's body. The 5 great world halos around the world fragment have also become more dazzling. I estimate that these 5 great star halos represent the 5 great small worlds that I have fused in the small world. The yin-yang Tao did not change much, but because the world fragment speed of absorbing energy has increased, my overall cultivation speed will increase again in the future. I don't have much time left. Coincidentally, I have the black-robed old man's corpse. I have to try my best to break through another realm when I fight with the experts under the Dark World Lord. 4 Tao realms of heaven immortals are nothing. I want to break through to the 5 Tao realms. Looking at the 4 Tao marks on his body, Su Fong actually licked his lips and smiled evilly. He waved his hand, and a headless body appeared beside Su Fong. Author's words. Today, I will make up for the chapter that I went to Nanjing last month. It was not easy to save this chapter. Brothers and sisters, I will continue to work hard to make up for it. Chapter 1091. The black-robed old man's corpse floating in front of Su Fong. This corpse was as powerful as a mortal Chang'u and contained an unknown amount of energy. More importantly, this corpse was not damaged. In this nether earth ruins, his body was still full of energy. Whoosh, whoosh, with a thought. With Su Fong as the center from the side of the void dust cauldron by Ling, Green Feather King, Undying Tortoise, Vermilion Emperor, and Sky-Piercing Monster Venerable, these 5 powerful big goblins appeared around Su Fong. The 5 big goblins were the most powerful, and each of them had powerful abilities. Unfortunately, the black-robed old man's corpse could only be absorbed by the few of them, and some of the powerful commanders could only swallow elixirs to cultivate. Green Feather King was attracted by the corpse and could not help but exclaim, "Kid, you got such a powerful corpse again. Of course, my brother is the most powerful. There's nothing my brother can't do." Bai Ling frowned, and spiritual light kept moving around. The Undying Tortoise, Vermilion Emperor, and Sky-Piercing Monster Venerable also had different smiles, but their attention was still attracted by the black-robed old man's corpse. Now, the 5 big goblin strength was not much different from Su Fong's. Su Fong took out so many resources for them to cultivate. How could they not be powerful? This corpse has the strength of an elder, more powerful than an ordinary elder. His body is full of true qi. I will refine his blood essence with cauldron transformation and fuse it with true qi. The 6 of us will absorb as much as you can. I will use the corpse's power to break through to the 5 Tao realm of heaven immortal, and with the help of ancient high-grade elixirs, each of us will be twice as strong. Looking at the familiar faces, at this time, his heart really felt calm and steady. Together through thick and thin. This was impossible in the cultivation world, but these 5 experts in front of him accompanied him from the small world to the big world, especially Bai Ling, especially Green Feather King. Activating the crucible transformation technique, he immediately ejected out a refining force, which imperceptibly shackled the corpse of the black-robed old man. That terrifying crucible transformation refining force quickly caused the corpse to burst out with a faint black infernal flame force. The corpse began to creak, creak, creak. The pills were also given to everyone. Ancient superior-grade pills were definitely a peerless power that even the big goblin could not bear. Then, while Su Fong was refining the corpse, he began to use his great perfection perception to sense the black-clothed old man's corpse. This corpse belonged to a peerless elder of Huiyin Shinrikyo. Sure enough, he found a few things in his body. 2 storage rings and a talisman. Moreover, the golden core inside his corpse was also very powerful. However, under the power of the crucible transformation realm, it was divided into 6 equal parts. As an elder, he must have some peerless treasures. He should also have Huiyin Shinrikyo's peerless techniques. He looked at the storage ring and the talisman. Su Fong looks at the talisman first. And this inverted talisman? Was it a terrifying, offensive talisman refined by the black-clothed old man that possessed the power of flames? It was as if he had attacked with his own terrifying power. Great! With such a power, it was enough to fight against experts like Bai Tsubing and Shangda. And the storage ring still needed to be refined. At the same time, Su Fong also found token. It turned out to be the black-clothed old man's identity token. He learned that this person was called Old Immortal Fu Hua and was indeed a Huiyin Shinrikyo elder. Thinking of the elder, another Xianguang was released from the crucible transformation realm. A bloody figure came in front of Su Fong and immediately knelt down. It was the constellation of Nine Heavens elder Long Gu Immortal. Master, master, this little one wants to respect you. Long Gu Immortal was like a beggar. For a mouthful of food, he pounced on Su Fong and hugged his calf. But he was shocked by the aura released by Su Fong. Su Fong pointed at the corpse and activated the identity token. For the time being, I will not let the Vermilion Emperor torture you. Let's see how you perform later. Look at this Huiyin Shinrikyo elder Fu Hua. Do you know him? It's Old Immortal Fu Hua. When Long Gu Immortal saw the token and looked at the corpse, he was shocked. Of course I know him. He cultivated for more than 100,000 years before this little one, and was an elder of Huiyin Shinrikyo who controlled a large force. His name shook the world. Unfortunately, tens of thousands of years ago, I heard that in order to snatch a strange flame seed, he disappeared in the Huangze astral world. At that time, Huiyin Shinrikyo sent many experts to search for him, but they could not find him. Strange flame seed. Who cares who Old Immortal Fu Hua is? However, the strange flame seed made Su Fong frown, and his heartbeat suddenly accelerated. Are you sure that this person disappeared in the Huangze astral world in order to obtain the strange flame seed? Do strange flame seeds often appear in the Huangze astral world? Master, the Huangze astral world is an amazing wasteland. It has a vast area, so naturally there are constantly spiritual objects born. There are many forbidden areas that are brewing some heavenly treasures, such as the strange flame seed. It is estimated that one will appear every 10,000 years, and sometimes it will appear every 20,000 years. However, this is only recorded in ancient books. Everyone believes that in such a big world, it is impossible for one strange flame seed to appear every 10,000 years. Great! I really hope that this person obtained the strange flame seed. Suddenly, his eyes were attracted by 2 storage rings. He waved his hand and gave 5 ancient high-grade pills to Long Gu Immortal. You are recovering from your injuries. I don't care what you think in your heart, but you just need to know one thing. Don't think that just because you have the strength of an elder, you can think of ways to deal with me. With your current state of being suppressed by me, even if you are several times more powerful, you can't hurt me. I don't dare. Long Gu Immortal trembled and hurriedly began to swallow the pills. Su Fong used his cauldron transformation power and began to refine the seals on the 2 storage rings. This kind of seal was very powerful, and he needed to borrow the cauldron transformation power. At the same time, unexpectedly, Old Immortal Fu Hua's corpse began to slowly turn into white bones. Su Fong absorbed the smallest ball of energy into his body. After waiting for a while, the 5 big goblin immortals also swallowed a ball of energy that was much bigger than him. They went to the edge of the cave and swallowed their own energy. Su Fong absorbed the ball of energy into his yin-yang Dao wheel and continued to absorb this astonishing energy to break through to the peak of the heavenly immortal realm. At the same time, he began to wait for the 2 storage rings. Gradually, the aura in his body fiercely seeped out of his skin. It could be seen that 1/6 of an elder's corpse's energy would bring a shocking impact to a heavenly immortal like Su Fong. Buzz buzz. Not long after, the 2 storage rings also instantly burned with an aura. The seal disappeared. Su Fong impatiently used his young immortal Dao and entered one of the storage rings. When he arrived at the space, he saw various immortal stones, gems, strange stones, and some spiritual items floating inside. There were also several spirit veins. Although they were not ancient spirit veins, they were huge spirit veins that were rarely seen. He did not expect Old Immortal Fu Hua to be so rich. There is no deviant flame seed. Seeing so many treasures, he was numb. Compared to the 100-virtue ancient demon Dao ground, this amount of resources was nothing. His goal was the deviant flame seed. Since old immortal Fu Hua had disappeared and was sucked into this space, he must have been confident that he could obtain the deviant flame seed. That was why he was trapped in this world. He arrived at the second storage ring. Just as he arrived, he saw tens of thousands of different treasures and manuals floating in mid-air quietly. Other than the treasures and manuals, there was also a large number of immortal pills sealed in arrays. Buzz. The perfection stage ability suddenly felt something. Su Fong was pleasantly surprised as he stepped into the depths. He stopped abruptly and arrived at the center of the large number of sealing arrays. Among the treasure chests, he saw a familiar deviant flame seed sealed in one of the treasure chests. It was the size of a child's fist. Yes, my luck is too good. The deviant flame seed was the only power that allowed him to cultivate the supreme Fire Cloud Emperor physique. Without the deviant flame seed, it would be difficult for him to cultivate the Fire Cloud Emperor physique. It was extremely difficult to cultivate a fire true body with only fire elemental cultivation techniques. Even in his dreams, it was the deviant flame seed. It was just that the last time he fought for the Skylight deviant flame, he had risked his life several times. Now that he had obtained this deviant flame seed, he did not take any risks and naturally encountered it by chance. Luo, now I know that luck is invincible. Ha, luck. While he was happy, he did not forget to share with Luo. Luo said weakly, luck is indeed the most miraculous thing. You have come to the desolate swamp astral realm several times, met the Huiyin Shinrikyo several times, met Yimei in the small world before, and now you have met them again here, allowing you to have so many fortuitous encounters. With this nameless deviant flame seed, my illusory fire cloud should be able to extend from my small arm to my upper arm. Both arms will almost turn into a fire cloud state. He was too excited. However, he did not forget about the other treasure chests. There was a rune talisman in one of the chests. He took it out and activated it to take a look. It actually recorded the number 1 technique from the Huiyin Shinrikyo, the worldly fire fusion technique, which was the flame that Fu Huixian used. No, it was a terrifying fire-type technique that was similar to magma. There were also some fire-type sacred arts recorded, but the fire fusion technique of heaven and earth really attracted Su Fong's attention. This was a very powerful and pure fire-type sacred art. It was a treasure that many fire-type cultivators dreamed of obtaining. Su Fong would cultivate this technique together with the illusory fire cloud and cultivate the fire cloud emperor body together. In addition, Su Fong had a natal magic treasure, and his natal magic power contained fire-type divine power, so he could easily use any fire-type technique. In another treasure chest, Su Fong saw a magic treasure. It was actually a supreme-grade magic treasure. It was not a flying sword, but a small knife. It was only the length of a finger and looked very domineering and terrifying. A supreme-grade magic treasure was a heaven-defying magic treasure that only peerless elders could use a portion of its power. The last treasure chest contained a peak high-grade scarlet flying sword. It had an aura that Su Fong was very familiar with from the black-robed old man. It should be a magic treasure that Fu Huixian used when he was alive. Fu Huixian's lifetime of treasures, resources, and power. He swept up the crucible transformation technique and flew out of the cave. Ting Ba and Mao Chang also immediately disappeared into the Xianguang in his palm. In the span of a breath, in a flash, he arrived at the mountainside. The wooling goblin separated itself from the rocks and swallowed Su Fong. As soon as he concealed himself, a dozen or so black-clothed men appeared from the other side. All of them were either profound immortals or transcending profound immortals. For them to be able to find this place, it's obvious that when I was breaking through and the 5 greater demonic immortals were cultivating, I released a bit of my aura, and it was sensed by them. The subordinates of the Dark World's Lord are truly powerful, very powerful. Through the wooling goblin's body, Su Fong was looking at the void above. The black-robed men were moving forward quickly, sweeping through every place. There are no supreme experts. Their strength is around Mao Chang's level. There are no peerless experts at the elder level. Through the transformation of the Great Circle ability, Su Fang instantly sensed the cultivation of the dozen or so experts. If there are no peerless experts, then I can definitely kill these people. With the addition of an expert like Longu Immortal, with his cultivation, he can easily deal with any black-clothed experts here. These people would not rest until they found him. Suddenly, Su Fang clenched his fist. After a slight seal, Longu Immortal, Mao Chang, and Tung Ba appeared in the Wooling Goblin's body. Su Fang looked at Longu Immortal among the three. You are the strongest and have recovered a lot. Now, help us kill those dozen or so experts. Don't play any tricks. Master, don't worry. Longu Immortal looked at Su Fang, who was not wearing the demon face Rakshasa. He was already upset. It turned out that such a cultivator was actually an ordinary disciple of the constellation of 9 heavens. He felt uncomfortable in his heart. Let's ambush these experts together. Yes. Wooling Goblin immediately scuttled out along the ground. Su Fang shouted, and the few experts went forward together, approaching the dozen or so experts from behind. After reaching a certain distance, Wooling Goblin opened its mouth, allowing the 4 of them to silently fly up into the sky. Su Fang used his feather fan and activated the Heaven's secret life shrinking technique. He released a void formation that was more than 1 zhang wide, bringing Longu Immortal, Mao Chang, and Tung Ba into it. As for Wooling Goblin, it returned to his body. Controlling the formation and stepping on the feather fan, the 4 of them silently approached. When the dozen or so experts found the valley where Su Fang was cultivating and breaking through, they saw them enter the valley. Su Fang and the 3 experts attacked as fast as lightning. Go! Su Fang grabbed with his left hand, and a huge black figure flashed out. It was a demonic puppet. Boom! The other experts also attacked the black-clothed men at this time. With a loud boom, a fiery explosion rose up into the sky, causing dust to fly everywhere. Su Fang did not kill his way in, but only let the demonic puppet enter. Releasing his perfection Saint ability, through the light of the explosion, he saw Longu Immortal ruthlessly crushing the head of a black-clothed man, preserving the corpse. In just one exchange, he actually killed the other party. His strength was too shocking. Nearby, Tung Ba and Mao Chang were working together and heavily injured their opponent. The other monster that killed was the demonic puppet. Su Fang had a deeper understanding of his overall strength. From now on, even if he met an elder, he would not have to worry. What Qin Kuei, Yuan Yifeng, Mu Shua, they were nothing. Even the special disciple Li Tianqi would not be a threat to him. Moreover, when Longu Immortal returned to the constellation of 9 heavens, he would have an elder as his backer. What could Li Tianqi do to him? Thinking of this, he sensed his surroundings to see if there were any powerful people coming out. Half an hour later, Master, there is a discovery. Is this the thing you want? Longu Immortal suddenly flashed from the dust-filled valley behind him. He handed Su Fang a few corpses and a black imprint talisman. Grabbing the black imprint talisman, Su Fang immediately threw it into the true devil blood plate. This is it. Among the dozen experts, only one had this in his mind. This thing is very powerful. If Master had not informed me beforehand, I would have suffered a great loss. Fortunately, I used my true chi to break the divine power released by this thing. The others don't have this thing. Longu Immortal honestly replied. Yes. After a few breaths, the demonic puppet, Mao Chang, and Tung Ba also brought the corpses back. Not only did they obtain a great victory, they also obtained the corpses of the experts and the imprint talisman refined by Night Demon. Chi. Knowing that the Dark World's master could sense all of this, Su Fang brought them and disappeared. As expected, not long after, a middle-aged man brought dozens of experts to attack. Unfortunately, no one appeared. Deep in the mountains of the Nether ruins, some strange stones, shrubs, and lonely peaks formed the best natural obstacles, hiding Su Fang, who was hiding inside, even more perfectly. This time, I can fuse with the nameless flame seed. I don't know how high my fire attribute spiritual power will reach by then. At this time, he did not think about how to leave the Nether ruins. Strength was the most important thing. Only with strength could he find a way to leave. He had to start fusing with the nameless flame seed. At this time, he was also in the crucible transformation space. He let the crucible transformation space refine the corpses of the black-clothed experts. This energy was refined from old immortal Fuhua. Now he was not short of energy. Flame seed, letting Tung Ba come out to guard the crucible transformation space. Su Fang's main body came to the crucible transformation space and grabbed the nameless flame seed. His whole person was deeply attracted by the seed. Qi, urging the power of the crucible transformation space, Su Fang began to urge the illusory fire cloud. His arms began to turn into a transparent fire cloud state, while his skin turned red. A pure yang true fire burned around him, while the yang energy in his body crazily surged. When it reached the limit, Su Fang turned into a flaming man. Then his hands began to wrap around the nameless flame seed, holding it in the palm of his hand. It felt like a pair of hands formed by the fire cloud, fusing with the flame seed. It was no longer Su Fang's hands, but a kind of fire attribute spiritual power that fused with the flame seed. His hands began to absorb the power of the flame seed, burning its aura. At the same time, he also stimulated the 9 yang 9 transformations. Yang energy also began to pour out from his palms, fusing with the flame seed. Qi. When the flame seed encountered the pure yang energy, it unexpectedly began to burn crazily. A dazzling flame burst out from the seed. Then, maintaining this state, his hands continued to absorb the power of the flame seed. At the same time, the flame seed also absorbed the yang energy from Su Fang's body. In this way, the yang energy first fused with the flame seed. When Su Fang's hands absorbed the flame seed's power, it became much easier. Gradually, Su Fang's skin turned even redder. Almost all of his pores were spewing flames. Even his head turned red. The fire cloud state on his hands continued to extend from his small arms to his big arms. When it reached his big arms, it turned into a rolling fire cloud. Moreover, the yin-yang Dao wheel in the depths of his body also burned more fiercely with the pure yang true fire. Even the yang energy in his 20 yang meridians was in a flame state. The true qi absorbed by the world fragment was also in a flame state. From this, one could see how amazing the flame seed was. An unknown amount of time passed. The flame seed in his hands had shrunk to the size of a broad bean. Su Fang directly released a flame and absorbed the flame into the yin-yang Dao wheel. He then started to absorb it from his body. He then looked at his arms and activated a force. The fire cloud extended from his palms to his wrists and then into his big arms. Instantly, his 2 arms turned into a fire cloud state. Although it did not reach 100% state, the fire cloud arms no longer had human skin, flesh, and bones. To be able to fuse to such a state, it was not only because of the flame seed, but also because of the great perfection physical body, black lotus true body, blood transformation true body, yang energy, and other miraculous factors. Without these, even if Su Fang had fused with the flame seed, his hands would not have been able to transform into such a terrifying flame state. This is too miraculous. I have already fused with the nameless flame seed. However, many youths will still need to fuse with the flame. Fortunately, the nameless flame seed has brought so much amazing power. The energy in my body is boiling. It is better to use it to attack the 21st meridian. I think I will succeed later. Well, now I can release a yang immortal, essence blood, and true qi to fuse with the mark rune that I just obtained from the Lord of the Dark World. He continued to cultivate and focused on attacking the 21st meridian. He separated another yang immortal into the true demon blood plate and began to fuse with the second strange mark rune from the Lord of the Dark World. His strength and abilities were constantly changing. At the same time, the junior commanders, demon immortals, and slaves were all becoming stronger. They were also constantly fusing with various Dharma treasures. His overall strength had already entered the mystic immortal realm.